Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
Jonas' hands trembled as he stared at the photo Ella had just shown him. There they were, Kailani, his wife, and Moses, her so-called business consultant, locked in an embrace behind the floral arrangement. Her fingers brushed his shoulder. His hand rested on her waist. The laughter at their intimate joke seemed frozen in the image, mocking Jonas' trust. What's worse, he whispered to himself, heart pounding. The betrayal of the vows or her audacity to do this under my roof. Jonas' jaw tightened. Betrayal was one thing, but this demanded retribution, and Jonas knew exactly how to serve it. Chapter 1. A glittering night, a flicker of betrayal. Jonas, age 37, executive chef and co-owner of Lotus Flame, stood before the wide marble counter of his newly expanded flagship restaurant in New Orleans. Tonight was the official unveiling of the renovated space, an event drawing local food critics, society figures, and out-of-state investors. The glass walls showcased the bustling city lights. The interior gleamed with brass fixtures, polished wood floors, and ambient lighting that threw everything into a mellow glow. In the swirling crowd, Jonas spotted the familiar faces of his in-laws Amos and Alana, a wealthy older couple who'd built their fortune in jewelry. Next to them was Jonas's wife, Kailani. Dressed in a sleek, shimmering gold dress that matched her honey blonde hair, she radiated the confidence of someone who believed the room was hers. Jonas, in a tailored black chef's jacket embroidered with Chef Jonas, tried to quell the restless churn in his stomach. He had reasons to be nervous. This night was supposed to be a triumph. Months of construction, new culinary innovations, and marketing hype had led to this moment. Yet Jonas sensed a tension emanating from Kailani, an intangible distance in her eyes. She laughed with the guests, swirling champagne in her flute, but her gaze kept flicking to the side. "Chef Jonas, your preview tasting was incredible," raved a local critic, stepping up to greet him. Jonas forced a bright grin. "Thank you. I'm eager for everyone to taste the full menu." But even as he bantered about the signature seared scallops and saffron risotto, Jonas's peripheral vision locked onto Kailani. She stood across the room, leaning in close to a tall, dark-haired man. Jonas recognized him. Moses, a longtime friend of Kailani's from college, who'd recently become an investment consultant for her parents' jewelry empire. Jonas had nothing against Moses personally until now. Something about their posture signaled more than casual friendship. The slight tilt of Kailani's head, the conspiratorial closeness, the soft, private laughter. Jonas felt a coil of discomfort in his gut. A flicker of confusion washed over Jonas. Why is Moses here, anyway? He's never shown interest in my culinary events. He tried to ignore it, focusing on the countless handshakes, forced small talk, photo ops. Cameras flashed as the local news blogger took pictures. Jonas exuded calm confidence in front of them. Meanwhile, Kailani floated from conversation to conversation, maintaining her polished socialite persona. But Jonas noticed her pausing by Moses' side far too often. Once, Jonas glimpsed her hand lightly grazing Moses' forearm, followed by a mutual smile that seemed intimate. An hour in, Jonas retreated behind the kitchen partition for a breather. He dabbed sweat from his brow, though the air conditioning was robust. His sous chef, Ella, approached carrying a tray of mini crab cakes. She gave him a concerned look. "Chef, everything okay? You seem distracted." Jonas forced a half smile. "Just the usual pre-opening jitters." Then lowering his voice, "Ella, do me a favor. Keep an eye out front. If you see anything off, let me know." Ella raised an eyebrow, but nodded. She was loyal to Jonas, the chef who had mentored her for years. Jonas exhaled, trying to quell the simmering worry about Kailani's odd closeness to Moses. Perhaps it was nothing. Perhaps it was just the swirl of social events. A while later, Ella came back, face pale. She held her phone out. "Chef, I snapped a photo trying to capture the ambiance for my Instagram, but look in the background." Jonas examined the image. A shot of the restaurant's gleaming interior with a cluster of guests near the bar. And there, partially blurred but unmistakable, Kailani and Moses stood behind a floral arrangement, her hand on his shoulder, leaning in as though whispering something intimately. Moses's hand pressed to her waist, their faces angled, lips too close. Jonas's chest constricted. This wasn't an innocent gesture. The body language screamed secrecy. He swallowed hard, adrenaline firing. The photo was just half clear, but enough to confirm his worst suspicion. She's cheating on me, or at least intimately close with this man. "Chef, I'm sorry," Ella whispered. "I didn't want to upset you, but I felt you should know." Jonas's jaw tightened. He forced a calm nod, fighting the swirling fury. "Thank you for showing me," he managed. "Keep this photo to yourself. We'll talk later." Inside, he felt his world crack. He remembered their wedding day's vow. No secrets, no betrayals, and the prenuptial that restricted him from fathering children. A compromise he made because Kailani insisted. She won that battle. Now she's creeping with Moses behind my back? Hell no. Jonas inhaled, summoning the quiet rage of a man who refused to be humiliated. Amid the swirling guests, Jonas forced a stoic mask. He'd be damned if he allowed Kailani or Moses to see him rattled. He strolled out, wearing the same confident half-smile, conversing lightly with a local official about farm-totable sourcing. But inside, a plan began forming. Jonas was no pushover. He prided himself on methodical thinking, like perfecting a complex recipe. He'd gather all ingredients of truth before unleashing his final masterpiece of revenge. Moses was still there, now chatting with Amos and Alana. Kailani stood to the side, sipping another glass of champagne. Jonas glided up, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. She startled slightly, eyes flicking with guilt. "Jonas, darling, everything going well?" she asked sweetly. He studied her face, seeing an edge of wariness behind her trained smile. "Yes, lovely event," he replied in a smooth tone. "I might step out soon, though. Need some fresh air." Her brows twitched. "Should I join you?" The question felt forced, as if she wanted to gauge his suspicion. Jonas gave a casual shrug. "No need. Enjoy entertaining the guests." Then he brushed his lips across her cheek, as if everything was normal. Beneath that gesture, fury churned. Pausing by the entry, Jonas recalled the day he signed that cursed prenup. Kailani insisted on a "no children for at least 10 years" clause, plus heavy penalties if Jonas was found to be the cause of any scandal. He'd been so blinded by love that he conceded, ignoring his longing to be a father soon. Amos and Alana had pressed for it, protecting their daughter's corporate ambitions from the distractions of motherhood. Jonas, a rising star in the culinary scene, acquiesced. Now he realized how stifled he'd felt. He remembered arguments with Kailani whenever he brought up fatherhood. She always shut it down, too focused on expansions of her jewelry brand or traveling with Moses for business. Jonas had hidden his hurt, channeling it into his cooking, and now she's gallivanting with Moses behind my back? Finishing the event, Jonas gave the customary thank you speech acknowledging Kailani for her support, the biggest lie of the night. She smiled graciously, clapping lightly, playing the perfect wife. The crowd applauded. Moses clapped too, a smug hint in his eyes. Jonas ground his teeth, imagining how they must think him clueless, but he was far from clueless. As guests departed, Jonas approached Kailani again. I've got some late cleanup. You go on with your parents if you want. She blinked. Are you sure? He nodded curtly. She left with a breezy wave, Moses tagging along behind Amos and Alana. The perfect image of family closeness minus Jonas, the outsider chef. Standing alone in the no-empty dining area, Jonas stared at the overhead chandeliers. He let out a silent vow. You want to cheat? You want to humiliate me? I'll gather every piece of evidence and bring down your entire facade. He refused to be naive or let them manipulate him out of his own success. In the hush, he called Matthew an old friend from culinary school who had pivoted to a private investigation side business. Jonas asked if Matthew could discreetly confirm Moses's involvement. Matthew was intrigued. I recall hearing rumors about Moses's shady finance tactics. I can do some digging. Perfect. Jonas wanted a professional approach, someone who'd handle it quietly without the massive retainer of a big PI firm. They agreed to meet the next morning. Jonas felt a grim satisfaction, aware that if Kaylani's betrayal was real, he wouldn't just walk away heartbroken, he'd ensure the fallout took them all by surprise. Jonas returned to the lavish condo he shared with Kaylani. The place was tastefully furnished with modern art, reflecting her upscale tastes. She was already in bed, scrolling her phone. She barely looked up as he entered. Great job tonight, she said, a faint note of sarcasm in her voice. Jonas forced a neutral tone. Yes. We had a solid turnout. The critics seemed pleased. He eyed her, wanting to ask about Moses, but decided to wait. He showered, letting hot water pound his tense shoulders, mentally replaying the event, the photo, her suspicious laughter with Moses. Emerging in sweatpants, he saw Kaylani already turned away in bed, as if asleep. He knew better she was probably texting someone. Jonas wanted to confront her. But no. He'd follow the recipe for revenge properly. Step 1. Gather all the evidence. Over the next couple days, Jonas observed Kaylani's patterns. She left early for meetings, refused to clarify details, always referencing Moses's involvement with marketing expansions or finances. Each time Jonas politely offered to accompany, she found an excuse. She was trying to keep her double life hidden. Meanwhile, Jonas jotted notes, cross-checking times with when Moses posted pictures from random coffee shops. Everything pointed to them meeting behind his back. One evening, Kaylani came home late, feigning exhaustion. Jonas wordlessly offered a light supper. She picked at it, then retreated to the bedroom, ignoring Jonas. She's not even trying to hide how disconnected she is. Jonas's anger grew, but he remained outwardly calm, an ember of fury beneath a layer of ice. Late that night, Jonas stood on the condo's balcony, city lights shimmering below. He clutched Ella's photo on his phone, the partial snapshot of Kaylani and Moses, nearly locked in an embrace. His heart hammered with both betrayal and a thirst for retribution. She wants to cheat me of fatherhood, cheat on me with Moses, and keep me locked in a humiliating prenup? Jonas thought. No. I'll unravel their illusions, step by step. If Kaylani and Moses think I'm some clueless, docile chef, they're about to learn how wrong they are. He tapped out a text to Matthew. Meet tomorrow 10 a.m. Let's start. Then he turned off his phone, exhaling a slow breath. The war had begun. Chapter 2. Shadows and Stirrings of Revenge. The following morning, Jonas woke before dawn, slipping into his chef's jacket. His routine usually involved an early run to the market for fresh ingredients, then heading to the restaurant. But today he had an added stop, a discreet cafe, to meet Matthew. Kaylani was still asleep, her phone on silent by the nightstand. Jonas glanced at her sleeping form, recalling their early marriage days. Back then, he adored her drive and ambition. He'd never suspected she'd morph into an unfaithful partner, or that Moses would worm his way into their marital bed, figuratively or literally. Jonas pushed the bitterness down and left the condo. At the cafe, Matthew, lean, sharp-eyed, wearing a casual blazer, waited at a corner table. Jonas joined him, ordering black coffee. The two men exchanged nods. "So, Jonas, from what you told me on the phone, we suspect an affair plus potential financial sabotage," Matthew began, tapping on a small notepad. "I'll need details." Jonas described the suspicious timing, the partial photo from Ella, and the closed-door meetings Kaylani claimed. He also mentioned the lopsided prenup, how any scandal pinned on Jonas would devastate him financially, whereas if he could prove Kaylani's infidelity, it might free him from that trap. Matthew nodded thoughtfully. Under Louisiana law, if you can prove adultery in a marriage dissolution, you might avoid certain crippling payments. The same if you prove she or her family coerced you into a no-child clause under questionable pretenses. Jonas's jaw clenched. Yes, that's the plan. Document everything. Photos, recordings, any financial shenanigans. She's from a wealthy background, so they might try to bury me if we go public. I won't let that happen. Matthew sipped his coffee. I'll start with tailing Moses, see if we can confirm times he's with Kaylani. We can also check if they're mixing personal funds with business expansions, maybe funneling money away. Could be they aim to push you out. Jonas nodded, relieved. Do it discreetly. I'll handle my end, playing the compliant husband at home. Let me know cost, I'll pay. They parted ways, a new alliance sealed. Jonas's heart pounded with a renewed sense of control. He wasn't a victim. He was an avenger, orchestrating the trap. At the restaurant, Jonas forced his typical easygoing demeanor with the staff. They praised the success of last night's unveiling, though Jonas felt only a simmering darkness inside. Ella hovered with concern. Chef, you okay? You look tired, she murmured. Didn't sleep well, Jonas admitted. But I'm fine. Let's keep perfecting that gumbo special for the lunch service. He immersed himself in the kitchen routine, guiding the sous chefs, tasting sauces, adjusting seasonings. Cooking was his art, his solace, yet every so often a memory of Kaylani's whispered laughter with Moses intruded. He hammered it down by focusing on the flavors. Mid-morning, a text arrived on Jonas's phone from Kaylani. At the company's board meeting with Moses. We'll be home late. Jonas read it, lips curling cynically. Sure you are, he thought. If she only knew, he'd already set watchers on her trail. While prepping a batch of desserts, Jonas drifted into recollection. The time he first told Kaylani he wanted kids within a couple years. She'd shot back, I'm not giving up my figure or my business momentum. My parents would disown me if I got pregnant now. She'd insisted that if Jonas truly loved her, he'd sign a no-child agreement to keep them both free of that burden. Jonas, smitten and naive, complied. He'd watched enviously as friends started families, meanwhile, burying his paternal longing under 16-hour workdays in the kitchen. Now, ironically, Kaylani seemed to have no qualms about unfaithfulness, which might lead to a child with Moses if they were that careless. Jonas felt a pang of righteous anger. She blocked my fatherhood dream, but is messing around with Moses as if the prenup only shackles me. That night, Kaylani returned home even later, reeking of fancy perfume that Jonas knew wasn't hers. He'd memorized her usual brand, which had a light rose scent. This smell was heavier, muskier possibly from Moses's cologne mingling with her. Jonas let her waltz in, removing her heels. She gave him a breezy, I'm exhausted, dear, with no further detail. He confronted her gently. Long day, huh? Everything go smoothly at your father's board meeting? She offered a guarded smile. Yes, Just typical business expansions. You wouldn't understand." Jonas forced a nod, ignoring the sting of her condescension. "Let's have dinner." She shrugged. "I'm not hungry. I'll shower and sleep." "Fine," Jonas murmured, heart pounding with the knowledge she reeked of another man. "What's with that tone?" she snapped. He smoothed his expression. "No tone. You said you're tired. I respect that." She glared suspiciously, but stalked off to the shower. Jonas's mind spun. She's bold, barely covering her tracks, yet that might be his advantage. The more reckless she is, the easier it'll be to prove her wrongdoing. Across town, in a posh condo, Moses sipped bourbon while Kailani paced in a plush robe. They were post-intimacy, discussing next moves. "Jonas is a sweet chef, but he's clueless," Moses sneered. "The only worry is if he stumbles on the finances. My next big move is to shift more capital into that new shell company." Kailani exhaled, half lounging on the sofa. "I almost pity Jonas. But truly, I'm beyond fed up with his chef life overshadowing me. Dad worships him sometimes, praising his artistry. Meanwhile, we have the real money in expansions." Moses smirked. "We can speed up the plan. Once we've locked down the next jewelry brand expansion, we push Jonas out or get him in a scandal, then you quietly divorce. We can manage the prenup so you get the restaurants too, or force him into a small settlement." Kailani shrugged. "He might whine, but he can't outmaneuver me with my parents' lawyers. Let's finalize the expansion soon. Then I'll see how to gracefully discard him." They toasted their collusion. Neither suspected Jonas was already orchestrating their downfall from the shadows. Meanwhile, Jonas attended a local produce expo seeking new organic suppliers. Among the booths, he encountered Blair, a warm-voiced woman with auburn hair, wearing jeans and a simple blouse. She spoke passionately about her family's organic farmland in upstate Mississippi, their pesticide-free methods, and the importance of sustainable relationships with chefs. Jonas introduced himself politely, scanning her brochures. He appreciated her earnestness. Blair recognized his name, Chef Jonas, the brilliant mind behind Lotus Flame, right? She asked with genuine enthusiasm. Jonas felt a pang of pride. They chatted about produce quality, potential supply partnerships, and found an easy rapport. At one point, Blair noticed Jonas's tension. "Everything okay, Chef? You seem preoccupied." He hesitated, not wanting to overshare, but something about Blair's empathetic gaze invited honesty. "Let's say I'm dealing with personal drama, but I appreciate your concern." She gave a gentle nod, offering her business card with a smile. "If you ever need more than produce talk, I'm a good listener. No pressure." Jonas felt an unexpected warmth. Maybe just having a sincere conversation with someone unconnected to his toxic marriage was refreshing. He tucked her card safely away. Days later, Matthew requested Jonas meet him in a discreet parking garage. Jonas found him leaning against a column, flipping through photo prints. He handed Jonas an envelope. Inside were photos. Kailani entering a boutique hotel with Moses, their closeness unmistakable. Time-stamped receipts from a lavish suite booking. Also glimpses of them in a restaurant's private booth, arms around each other. Jonas's stomach churned, seeing proof of Kailani's brazen infidelity. "There's more," Matthew murmured. "We tracked some shell company documents linked to Moses. He may be funneling capital from your in-law's business into personal accounts. Kailani's signature is on some. Hard to say if she's deeply involved or just naive, but it implicates her." Jonas nodded grimly. "She's likely complicit. She's cunning enough to be more than naive. Good work, Matthew. Keep digging, especially any mention of leveraging the prenup to trap me." Matthew promised more updates soon. Jonas clenched the envelope, mind swirling with how to use this. They want to push me out? Let them try. I'll push first. One crucial angle Jonas recalled: the no-child clause that had stunted his dream of fatherhood. If he discovered that Kailani had no intention to remain faithful or continue the marriage, maybe he could highlight the clause's potential invalidity if the entire marriage was in bad faith. Possibly he could annul or severely reduce her advantage. He phoned a specialized family lawyer discreetly for a consult, referencing the possibility of fraudulent marriage. The lawyer explained it was tricky but not impossible. If Jonas proved that from the start Kailani's vow was compromised, the courts might void certain parts of the prenup. Encouraged, Jonas filed that away. He also found his thoughts drifting to Blair occasionally. How refreshing her sincerity had been. But I must focus on my immediate war. I can't complicate it further by flirting. Yet the memory of her kind eyes lingered. One late evening, Jonas was chopping vegetables in the condo's kitchen, the only light coming from under the range hood. Kailani arrived, smelling of expensive liquor and Moses's cologne again. He set his knife down. "We need to talk, Kailani." She paused, dropping her purse with a bored expression. "What is it now?" He leveled a calm gaze. "I realize you've been busy with Moses. Are you sure you want to keep lying to me?" Her eyes flashed. "Oh, Jonas, must we do this? I told you he's my finance consultant. Stop acting jealous." She turned away. He breathed, forcing a neutral tone. "Someday soon, we might see who's lying to whom. Sleep well, dear." She threw him a confused, slightly alarmed look, but shrugged off his cryptic words, walking away. Jonas returned to chopping, every slice of the blade echoing the silent vow that he'd sever her illusions soon. At midnight, Jonas stood on the balcony again, rereading Matthew's new evidence. The hotel receipts, the cozy pictures. His fury melded with a cold satisfaction that he had them cornered. "A few more pieces," he whispered, "and I'll pull the trigger. She'll never see it coming." Inside, the city lights glimmered. The ominous hush signaled the calm before the storm, Jonas's methodical plan inching closer to execution. He was no doormat. Soon, Kailani and Moses would learn the price of deceiving a man who had everything to gain by unleashing the truth. Chapter 3. The Undercurrent of Passion and Collusion. In the days following his deepening investigation, Jonas found himself occasionally texting Blair about produce shipments, but their messages grew slightly more personal. She'd ask about his day, and he'd reply with hints of the turmoil in his marriage. She offered supportive words, never pushing for details but clearly concerned about his well-being. One afternoon, Blair invited Jonas to see her farmland in Mississippi. He hesitated spending personal time with another woman while still officially married, even if that marriage was a sham, was risky. But he couldn't deny that talking to Blair lifted some weight off his chest. Ultimately, he agreed. They arranged a quiet weekend trip, claiming to Kailani that Jonas had a culinary research visit. Kailani barely blinked, busy with her own secret outings. Jonas drove out on a Saturday morning, crossing state lines into Mississippi's rolling countryside. At Blair's family farm, he was greeted by the warm scent of fresh soil and blooming wildflowers. The main farmhouse was simple but inviting, white paint peeling slightly, a wraparound porch dotted with rocking chairs. Blair wore jeans, boots, and a sunny smile as she showed him rows of vibrant produce: tomatoes, peppers, leafy greens. They strolled the fields. Jonas confided in her how Kailani cheated with some unscrupulous finance guy, and how he planned to gather evidence. Blair listened intently, eyes sympathetic. "You deserve better than that," she said softly. No one who truly loves you would treat you that way. Her earnest words stabbed Jonas's heart with a mix of relief and longing. They paused by a row of ripening strawberries. Blair plucked one, offering it to Jonas. He tasted the sweet fruit, the moment feeling strangely intimate. A swirl of guilt flickered. He was still married, but the desire for genuine companionship overshadowed that guilt. Later, while they chatted on the farmhouse porch, Blair rested a hand lightly on Jonas's arm. Their eyes met, a charged hush passing between them. In the distance, crickets chirped. Jonas's pulse thudded. He knew that stepping further might give Kailani ammunition if discovered. But a rebellious part of him wanted to sabotage her illusions, to reclaim the affection he'd been denied. They ended the evening with a simple dinner Blair cooked using farm produce vegetable stew, cornbread. The taste was humble, yet comforting. Over the meal, Jonas noticed how natural it felt to share stories with Blair, no pretense or arrogance. At the door when he left, they exchanged a lingering hug. He drove back to New Orleans under the moonlit sky, mind swirling with the possibility that he could actually find happiness beyond Kailani's betrayal. Meanwhile, in a high-rise suite, Moses and Kailani hammered out the final steps of their plan. They aimed to launch a new Synergy brand, combining the family's jewelry line with certain elite marketing expansions, funneling profits to private accounts. Moses smirked. "Once we're done, you can quietly split from Jonas, claim partial ownership of his restaurant brand, and we walk away with double." Kailani sipped her cocktail, eyes gleaming. "He's so busy playing chef, I doubt he's paying attention. We just have to be sure Dad doesn't side with Jonas in any potential divorce." Moses patted her knee. "We'll keep the parents on your side. They adore you. Jonas is just the star chef for them to show off, not a real power player." That same weekend, Jonas visited Amos and Alana's mansion to discuss the next promotional event for Lotus Flame. They greeted him politely, but with a hint of wariness. Over tea, Alana asked, "Jonas, dear, how goes your restaurant expansions? Kailani told us you planned some big steps." Jonas withheld a smirk. "So Kailani's been spinning narratives?" "Yes, I have ideas, but I prefer not to finalize anything until the time is right." Amos nodded. "We're always here to back you financially if needed, as long as it aligns with Kailani's brand synergy." Jonas only smiled thinly. "Appreciate that, though I handle my finances quite well." He left soon after, suspecting Amos and Alana were inadvertently part of Kailani's scheme to merge or overshadow Jonas's brand. That reaffirmed Jonas's decision to keep his own counsel. One night, Jonas overheard Kailani on a tense phone call in their condo's study. She was hissing into the phone. "We need that final contract before Jonas suspects anything. I'll handle him, just be sure to keep the hush payments ready." Then she noticed Jonas's approach and abruptly hung up, feigning a smile. "It's nothing important, darling." He forced a casual nod. Inside, he wanted to rip the phone from her hand, but he needed more definitive proof for a final, crushing blow. He texted Matthew, describing the overheard snippet. Matthew replied that he'd intensify the surveillance of Moses's finances. Jonas felt a swirl of grim anticipation. Soon the puzzle would be complete. Amid the tension, Jonas found more excuses to see Blair arranging deliveries, sampling produce. Each meeting, they grew emotionally closer. Blair confided how she felt an unspoken bond with him, how his culinary passion inspired her. Jonas reciprocated, describing how she reminded him of what sincere warmth felt like, something he'd rarely seen from Kailani in years. One late afternoon, after discussing a potential organic collaboration for his restaurant, Jonas and Blair lingered in the quiet storeroom, the earthy smell of crates of vegetables around them. Their conversation shifted personal, about dreams, regrets. Blair admitted, "I always wanted a big family, but my ex-boyfriend wasn't into kids. We parted ways." Jonas felt a tug. He, too, was denied fatherhood. They locked eyes. The weight of unspoken desire pressed in. Blair asked softly, "Are you sure you want to remain in that marriage? Sounds like it's draining you." Jonas, eyes shadowed, replied, "I'm building my exit plan, but it must be done carefully." They shared a lingering kiss, passion flaring. A wave of guilt crashed into Jonas, but also a sense of liberation. This was the affection he'd craved. They parted, breathless, both knowing the risk. He whispered, "I can't let Kailani or Moses have an excuse to claim I caused a scandal. Not yet." Blair nodded, eyes bright. "I'll wait." A week later, Matthew summoned Jonas for a nighttime rendezvous at an abandoned parking structure. Jonas arrived to find Matthew's face lit by the glow of a laptop screen. He showed Jonas a set of financial logs. They indicated large sums funneling from the jewelry family's corporate accounts into a newly formed LLC, co-managed by Moses and suspiciously co-signed by Kailani. This LLC had some references to Jonas's restaurant brand, though Jonas never authorized any such partnership. "They might be forging your signature or planning to leverage your brand as collateral," Matthew explained. "If they succeed, you could be saddled with debt or forced out." Jonas felt a cold fury. So that's their angle. They want to sabotage me financially, brand me incompetent. Then, if Kailani divorces me, she keeps everything, and I'm left holding liabilities. Matthew nodded grimly. "It's a classic Trojan horse tactic. Good thing we caught it early. I've also found chatter that they might push for an official merger event soon, unveiling a Jonas and Moses synergy facade." Jonas let out a bitter laugh. "They're playing me for a fool. They have no idea I'm steps ahead." He asked for copies of all docs. Matthew complied. Jonas's mind raced. Time to consolidate. "I have proof of the affair, proof of financial wrongdoing, and their plan to ruin me. One more big step, then I crush them." He thanked Matthew, gripping the folder. "Keep me posted. We're close." Out of nowhere, Kailani insisted Jonas join a special dinner with Moses and her parents to announce exciting synergy news. Jonas concealed his smirk. This must be it. The group convened at a private lounge. Amos and Alana, in formal attire, greeted Jonas with polite smiles. Moses stood smirking by Kailani's side. Jonas's stomach churned with loathing, but he masked it. During dinner, Kailani boasted about a joint business synergy, implying Jonas's restaurant brand and the jewelry empire's hospitality expansions. Moses chimed in, praising Jonas's culinary star power. Jonas feigned polite interest. Inside, he recognized they were stage setting for the big ambush, a new contract or brand unveiling that would entrap him financially. At one point, Moses lifted his wine glass, toasting Jonas. "To the brilliant chef, soon to be a partner in our new venture. We look forward to working even more closely with you." Jonas forced a stiff-lipped smile, playing ignorant. "I'm honored, though I hope we finalize details carefully." Kailani placed a hand on Jonas's arm in a show of unity, murmuring sweetly, "We are so proud of you, darling." Jonas nodded, swirling his wine, not swallowing a drop. Soon you'll see who's proud of whom, he thought. After dessert, Amos turned serious, addressing Jonas. "My boy, Kailani, and Moses have pitched a synergy. We want to integrate your restaurant brand with special event hosting across our top jewelry store locations. The board is excited. We propose a contract signing next week." Jonas gave a theatrical pause. "That's quite a leap. I haven't been thoroughly consulted. Let me read the documents." Kailani's eyes flicked with frustration, like she expected Jonas to sign blindly. Moses tried to reassure. We can brief you fully tomorrow. No stress. Jonas nodded politely, saying he'd see the fine print. Inside, he seethed with determination. They think I'll sign the final bullet on my own destruction, over my dead body. Late that night, Jonas sat at home, reviewing the stolen glimpses of the Synergy contract that Matthew had acquired. It spelled out how Jonas's brand would be used as collateral for expansions, with a hidden clause leaving Jonas liable for all debts if the Synergy failed. Meanwhile, Kaylani and Moses reaped gains. They planned to drop him after professional issues or a scandal, ensuring Jonas's downfall. Jonas's pulse pounded with fury, but also the exhilaration of a chef about to finalize his grand recipe for vengeance. He had the affair evidence, the financial sabotage logs, and a potential plan to demonstrate Kaylani's marriage was in bad faith from the start. Soon he'd present it all. The next chapter would see him strike, ensuring they never saw it coming. Chapter 4. The Reveal of Evidence and Crumbling Illusions. As the Synergy contract signing day neared, Jonas discreetly gathered his small team of confidants. Matthew, the PI, Ella, his loyal sous chef and witness to suspicious behavior, and Blair, whom he trusted personally, though he hadn't fully involved her in the business aspect. In a quiet back room of Lotus Flame, Jonas laid out all the incriminating evidence. Photos of Kaylani and Moses in compromising positions, detailed logs of their secret hotel stays, financial documents from the Shell LLC tying them to shady expansions, the Synergy contract's hidden clauses that would ruin Jonas. Matthew confirmed he'd read the Synergy contract in detail. It's basically a setup to force you into liabilities and let them claim your brand's intellectual property. Once you sign, they can orchestrate a meltdown and blame you. Ella, wide-eyed, asked, "Chef, this is insane. They want to destroy you. What's your plan?" Jonas exhaled slowly, lips curving in a grim smile. "I plan to flip the script at the signing meeting. Show them I have the real upper hand. They'll regret underestimating me." Blair, listening, realized how dire Jonas's predicament was. She gently touched his arm. "After you confront them, won't they try to bury the scandal to protect the family name?" Jonas nodded. "Yes, but I have enough proof to ensure they can't bury me. Legally, I'll come out safe. I just need to do it carefully, so they can't spin it." "What about your marriage?" Blair asked quietly, sadness in her eyes. Jonas glanced at her, gratitude mixing with longing. "I have no marriage left. Once I reveal this, it's effectively the end. The prenup might be void or heavily in my favor now. Then I'm free." Blair's eyes shone with empathy. Though Jonas saw her concern, she disliked being the other woman. But the lines were blurred. He squeezed her hand. "After this, I want to be honest about us. But let me finalize the takedown first." She nodded, biting her lip, promising to wait. Finally, the day of the Synergy signing arrived. The meeting took place in a sleek boardroom of Amos and Alana's corporate tower. A large polished table, city views from the 40th floor windows. Kaylani, radiant in a tailored dress, sat with Moses at her side, grinning smugly. Amos and Alana looked confident, expecting Jonas to sign the partnership that would catapult all brands forward. Jonas arrived in a sharp suit, accompanied only by a quiet legal advisor. Really, an associate of Ms. Harding who had the final evidence folder. Everyone greeted Jonas with forced cordiality. Kaylani offered a quick cheek kiss. He allowed it, noticing her perfume reeked of arrogance. Moses slid the Synergy contract across the table. "This is it," Moses said. "Once you sign, we publicly announce the Synergy tomorrow. It'll be a big press event." Kaylani nodded, excitement in her eyes. She likely fantasized about disposing of Jonas soon after. Jonas flipped through the contract, feigning ignorance, occasionally asking a mild question. Moses interjected slick reassurances. Kaylani wore a sweet smile. Amos and Alana watched approvingly. Then Jonas's legal advisor coughed, distributing a separate set of documents to each person. Jonas's voice rang calmly, but with steel. Before I sign anything, I have some clarifications. Let's start with the nature of my marriage to Kaylani. I've discovered multiple pieces of evidence showing she's been having an affair with Moses. A stunned hush blanketed the room. Kaylani's face went white. Moses stiffened. Amos and Alana gaped. Jonas tapped on the papers. You'll see time-stamped photos, hotel receipts, phone logs. It's undeniable. He paused, letting them absorb the shock. Kaylani managed a shaky laugh. Jonas, this is insane. We're business colleagues. You can't just wave random pictures. Jonas's lips curled. Check page 3, an image from the boutique hotel security camera, you both entering suite 1402 at midnight, leaving at 6 a.m. Also text logs referencing your private activities. This is slander, Moses barked. Jonas's advisor cut in. We have raw digital files and original receipts. This is no slander. Alana gasped. Kaylani, say something. You promised your father this synergy was purely professional. Amos looked furious, flipping through the prints, color draining from his face. Jonas continued, voice unwavering. Additionally, it appears you, Kaylani, and Moses established an LLC to shift funds from the family's jewelry empire and link them to my restaurant brand without my knowledge. The synergy contract you wanted me to sign is rigged to leave me financially liable while you both profit. He gestured to page 6. Here's the evidence of funneling money from your corporate accounts into a shell company. The synergy contract references an indefinite personal guarantee from me. I'm not signing that. Kaylani spluttered. That can't be true. Jonas, you misunderstand. We were optimizing synergy. Moses tried to jump in. He's twisting the data. Jonas's lawyer spoke calmly. No, we have official bank statements, email correspondences. Moses, your name appears as co-signatory. Ms. Kaylani's signature is also here, dated last month. Amos rose, eyes flashing. What is the meaning of this, Kaylani? Did you misuse family funds? Did you cheat on Jonas with Moses? Kaylani tried to maintain composure, but tears welled. Father, it's not as it looks. Jonas is lying. She pointed at him in desperation. He's probably the one cheating, framing me to get out of the prenup. I have no idea about these documents. Jonas's advisor tapped more pages. We also have statements from staff who saw Ms. Kaylani and Mr. Moses leaving certain private hotel suites. We have digital footprints from Moses's investment accounts. Everything is cross-verified. Alana put a hand to her chest. Oh my God, Kaylani, please tell me it's not true. You wouldn't risk the family name like this? Moses slammed a fist on the table. This meeting is over. Amos, Alana, don't believe this nonsense. Jonas is staging a smear campaign. Jonas gave a cold chuckle. By all means. Check with your lawyers. The synergy contract was your attempt to trap me, but you overlooked my ability to gather real data. Kaylani, seeing her father's glare, burst into defensive tears. Fine. Maybe I had a fling, but Jonas is no saint. He's always in his kitchen ignoring me. And Moses and I, we only did it because Jonas was impossible. She dissolved into sobs, half admitting guilt. Moses glared at her. Stop talking, you're incriminating us. Amos roared. You ungrateful children. You jeopardized our entire empire for your affair in that ridiculous synergy scam? Kaylani stammered. Dad, it's not a scam, it's an investment strategy. Alana looked mortified. But the affair is real? My God, Kaylani, you broke your vows. Jonas has every right to to divorce you under the adultery clause. Jonas calmly slid another document forward. Under Louisiana law, your daughter's proven adultery could nullify certain prenup conditions. I have grounds to file for immediate at-fault divorce, preserving my brand, and possibly claiming damages if we prove malicious financial intent. Kailani shook her head wildly. No, we can talk. Dad, help me. Amos sank into a chair, face pale. Kailani, you lied to me. Moses, you lied about your pure intentions. This synergy is worthless now. The scandal alone will ruin us if it goes public. Moses attempted to salvage. Wait. Let's negotiate. Jonas, we can come to an agreement. We can pay you off quietly. Just don't blow this up. Jonas stared with contempt. Pay me off? After you tried to sabotage me? Hard pass. Moses rose as if to physically intimidate Jonas. Watch your step. If you leak this affair scandal, you'll also face a scandal with that girlfriend of yours, Blair, is it? A little bird told me about your Mississippi visits. Maybe we twist the story that you cheated first. Jonas smirked, unruffled. You're welcome to try, but I have no legal or moral blockade preventing me from seeing Blair. Meanwhile, I have a mountain of evidence proving your wrongdoing. My relationship with Blair is not under a prenup, so good luck. Kailani gasped. You bastard! You had a mistress too? Jonas shrugged. Consider it cosmic justice, darling, and it doesn't negate your proven adultery. My side is squeaky clean, legally. Indeed, Jonas had ensured not to have concrete evidence that pinned him as an adulterer, no official cohabiting with Blair, no finances mixed. The scale weighed heavily in Jonas's favor. The boardroom was in chaos. Amos and Alana glowered at Kalani and Moses. Kalani sobbed. Moses fumed. Jonas stood, retrieving the thick file of evidence. If you want a quiet settlement, we can talk. Otherwise, I proceed with public divorce filings. You choose. Amos rasped. Jonas, please let's handle this discreetly. We'll talk to our lawyers. Just no rash public announcements. My company's stock can't handle that scandal. Jonas nodded curtly, stepping away from the table. I'll wait for your official approach, but know that if you try any more manipulations, I won't hold back. This meeting is over. He strode out, leaving them in stunned silence. He walked into the corridor, heart hammering. I did it. The illusions are shattered. He felt a surge of triumph tempered by sadness. The marriage was done, but so was Kailani's scheme. He pulled out his phone, texting Blair one word. Free. Chapter 5. Divorce Papers and Dark Designs. 3 days had passed since Jonas dropped the bomb on Kailani, Moses, and the in-laws, Amos and Alana, by revealing the evidence of her affair and their scheme to trap him in a disastrous synergy contract. The atmosphere in Amos and Alana's corporate circle was in disarray, with urgent meetings called to assess damage control. Headlines in the local business press hinted at internal rifts within the family's jewelry empire, though the full scandal wasn't yet public. Jonas, meanwhile, sat in his office at Lotus Flame, carefully reviewing the synergy contract once more. He'd refused to sign it, obviously. His phone buzzed. It was Alana wanting a private talk. He let it ring a few times, finally picking up with a polite, measured tone. Jonas, Alana began, voice tense. We need to discuss a path that spares the family from humiliation. Amos is distraught. Kailani is in a fragile state. Let's be reasonable. Jonas smiled coldly to himself. They want to hush things. I'm listening, he replied, but it must be on my terms. Before the call ended, Alana hinted they'd be willing to offer Jonas a large sum to keep the affair private. Jonas simply said, We'll see. My lawyer is drawing up a divorce petition. We can either settle or go public. Alana sighed, saying she'd consult Amos. Jonas hung up, feeling that surge of satisfaction. The power dynamic had shifted firmly into his hands. At the family's penthouse, Kaylani paced the living room in a near panic. She'd tried calling Jonas repeatedly after that boardroom ambush, but he ignored her calls, responding only with curt texts like, "Speak to my lawyer if you have demands." The swirling shame of her affair with Moses, once a thrilling escapade, now loomed as a ticking time bomb that might destroy her reputation, her parents' respect, and her illusions of controlling Jonas. Moses stood by the window, arms folded. "We can't let him drag this to court," he hissed. "The evidence is too damning. We should propose a hefty settlement. Maybe we can still salvage the synergy if we pivot." Kalani glared at him, bitterness edging her voice. "This synergy dream is done. My father's furious. Jonas exposed the side accounts you set up. Our best shot is damage control." She flung herself onto the couch. "I never thought Jonas had it in him to gather all that proof. He was always so absorbed in his cooking." "Where did he get those private investigators?" Moses scowled. "Doesn't matter. If we don't handle this, he'll ruin us both." Kalani turned pensive. Could she spin it that Jonas was no saint either? Perhaps, but his alleged relationship with Blair was hush-hush and unproven. Besides, Jonas's stranglehold on the evidence was near absolute. She cursed under her breath. She was used to controlling men through her father's wealth. Now Jonas was calling the shots. In a quiet chamber at Ms. Harding's law office, Jonas and his attorney, Elaine Rogers, reviewed the final draft of divorce papers. Elaine was a sharp-eyed, middle-aged lawyer with a steely composure. She'd pored over Jonas's prenuptial agreement for days, concluding that Kaylani's proven adultery and potential fraudulent business actions offered a strong case to either void major provisions or shift them in Jonas's favor. "We'll push for an at-fault divorce, citing adultery and malicious intent to sabotage your business," Elaine explained, pointing to sections in the documents. "Under Louisiana law, you stand to avoid significant spousal payouts. The hush money they're offering is likely hush money for themselves, not for your benefit." Jonas nodded. "I want full separation from her, no obligations, and ideally to retain my restaurant brand wholly. Let them keep their synergy illusions." Elaine smirked. "Understood. Once we serve Kalani these papers, the ball's in their court. If they want a settlement that includes a confidentiality clause, we can negotiate. But we'll have the upper hand." Jonas felt an inward relief. He'd soon be free from the constraints of a loveless marriage that stifled his dream of fatherhood. Speaking of fatherhood, his mind flicked to Blair and a pang of guilt-laced excitement. Would that dream still be possible, he wondered. While Jonas prepared the divorce, Moses scrambled to salvage whatever business advantage he could. He quietly met Amos in the Empire's executive suite, trying to convince him that this was a misunderstanding and that Jonas manipulated the evidence. Amos, furious, retorted that the synergy contract's shady clauses clearly pointed to Moses' wrongdoing. The older man threatened to press charges if the scandal worsened. Moses felt cornered. "If the synergy fiasco is dead and Kaylani's father is turning on me, do I have any bargaining chips left?" In desperation, he wondered about blackmailing Jonas with partial rumors of Jonas's closeness to Blair. But he lacked solid proof, and Jonas had clearly outmaneuvered him. At Lotus Flame early one morning, Blair arrived with the latest batch of organic produce. Jonas greeted her in a private corner. She noticed how exhausted he looked, dark circles under his eyes. "You've been at war, huh?" she said gently, touching his arm. Jonas nodded, explaining that the divorce was being formalized. "Kaylani's side is desperate to keep the affair quiet, but I hold all the cards. It's draining, but I won't relent." Blair squeezed his hand, empathizing. "I'm proud of you. This has to be so stressful. If you need a break, come by the farm again or let's just get dinner. You shouldn't face it alone. Jonas's expression softened. Thank you. Once the divorce process is stable, I'd like that. The quiet closeness between them spoke volumes. She left him with a comforting smile, stirring Jonas's longing for a new start. One evening, Jonas was surprised when one of Kailani's household staff, Darla, secretly approached him outside Lotus Flame. Nervously, she confessed she'd overheard Kailani and Moses discussing removing Jonas's leverage. They talked about forging documents or possibly planting evidence to frame you, Chef Jonas, Darla said, her voice shaky. Jonas's eyes narrowed. They're that desperate? Darla nodded. Yes. Kailani's been ranting about your affair evidence. She's terrified you'll ruin her public image. Jonas thanked Darla, slipping her some cash for her courage. Another piece of the puzzle. Kailani might attempt to frame him for something. I need to be vigilant, Jonas thought. They might try to claim I misused funds or that I fathered a child with Blair in violation of the prenup. But ironically, the prenup only banned Jonas from fathering a child with Kailani for a decade, not with someone else. The legal scope was narrower than Kailani realized. She likely assumed Jonas was ignorant of the fine print. He texted Matthew, "Heads up, they might frame me. Stay alert." The tension hit a new peak when Jonas arrived home late, documents in hand. Kailani stood in the living area, arms crossed. She'd seen the draft divorce papers Jonas left on a table. "You want to humiliate me, Jonas?" she snapped. "Dragging me to court for adultery? Broadcasting my mistake to the world?" Jonas set his briefcase down calmly. "You left me no choice. You tried to sabotage me with Moses, fling me into debt while you had an affair. I'm not covering for you." She trembled with rage. "I can offer you a private settlement. We can handle this discreetly. Don't ruin my family's name." He studied her with cold disdain. "You only care about your image, not the betrayal you inflicted. If you want discreet, sign an at-fault divorce, relinquish claims on my brand, and we part ways." She sneered. "What if I reveal your fling with that farm girl Blair to the tabloids? They'll see you're not so innocent. The prenup might force you out empty-handed." Jonas gave a half-smile. "Knock yourself out. The prenup's no child for 10 years with Kailani clause doesn't ban me from seeing another woman. Also, I have proof you cheated first, so that alone invalidates your moral high ground." Kailani's expression twisted. "You worthless cook," she spat. "You think you can outsmart me? I have powerful lawyers, my father's resources." Jonas raised a brow. "Your father might side with you on the surface, but he hates the scandal. If he sees you're the direct cause, he may let me walk free with no fuss. I know your finances better than you think, plus the synergy scam you tried to set me up with. Don't push me." Kailani's eyes flashed with desperation and wounded pride. She gave a trembling laugh. "This isn't over, Jonas." She stormed to the bedroom, slamming the door. Jonas remained in the living room, exhaling. He felt the aftershocks of that confrontation, but also a sense of triumph. Her threats fell flat. He was in control now. The next day, Jonas was summoned to the in-laws' mansion. He found Amos and Alana in the grand living room, surrounded by portraits of their lineage. They cut to the chase. Amos: "Jonas, we can't have a public scandal. Our stock, our brand, everything suffers. We'll pay you a considerable sum if you sign a no disclosures agreement about Kalani's affair and the Synergy fiasco. You can finalize the divorce quietly. We'll ensure the prenuptials constraints are lifted so you keep your restaurant." Jonas calmly took a seat. "So, you're offering hush money to keep your daughter's name out of the tabloids?" Alana pursed her lips. "We love Kailani, but we can't defend her choices. We just want to protect the family business." Jonas studied them, recognizing they were willing to throw Kailani under the bus to save face, ironically. He responded, "I want a written guarantee. I retain full ownership of Lotus Flame and my expansions, plus no further claims from Kailani or the Synergy contract. I want to be free of all marriage obligations. Also, if she tries anything else, I reserve the right to go public." Amos hesitated. "That's a steep demand, but we can do it if it stops the scandal. Kailani's mistake must not ruin us." Alana nodded in quiet agreement. Jonas gave a curt nod. "Then draft it. I'll have my lawyer review." Inside, he felt relief. They're basically ceding to my terms, but he also wondered if Moses would sabotage this arrangement. Possibly Moses had other cards to play. While Jonas negotiated with the in-laws, tragedy struck. Late that night, Blair was driving back from an organic festival when a black SUV forced her off the road. Her car careened into a ditch. She managed to call 911 with minor injuries, but paramedics found suspicious damage to her tires, as if someone had slashed them earlier. The incident reeked of foul play. Blair, shaken, texted Jonas from the hospital. "Somebody tried to run me off the road. I'm scared, Jonas." Jonas's blood boiled with rage. He immediately suspected Moses, or a hired goon. They might have discovered Blair was Jonas's emotional support and tried silencing her as leverage. Jonas rushed to Blair's side, comforting her as she trembled in the hospital bed with bruised ribs. He muttered, "I'll protect you. They won't get away with this." Blair gazed at him with tear-filled eyes. "It's not your fault, Jonas, but maybe they're sending a message. Are you sure going public with the divorce or the affair is safe?" Jonas clenched his fists. "I won't be intimidated. This just cements my resolve." He notified Matthew about the attack, urging him to investigate who might have ordered it. Meanwhile, Blair was released with a cast on her left arm. Jonas insisted she temporarily stay at a safe location, possibly a friend's farm. She reluctantly agreed, tears brimming with betrayal that such violence was possible. Back at Lotus Flame's private office, Jonas glared at the city skyline. The lines had been crossed. If Moses and Kailani dared target Blair, Jonas would unleash every piece of evidence in a nuclear legal approach, no matter how big the scandal. He placed a final call to Elaine Rogers. "We're done playing nice. Draft the public divorce. I want a restraining order if needed. Let's drop the hammer." He vowed, "They've touched the woman I care about. Now it's not just about me. It's war." Chapter 6. The Attempted Murder and Legal Firestorm. In a shadowy parking lot near the downtown waterfront, Moses paced nervously, phone pressed to his ear. He barked at an unknown contact. "You were supposed to scare Blair, not fail so spectacularly. Now we might be under investigation for attempted homicide." He ended the call, cursing. Everything's unraveling. Kailani, hiding under a hooded jacket, stepped from the shadows. "Moses, you idiot. Why did you escalate to hurting that farm girl? If Jonas gets wind you orchestrated it, he'll bury us." Moses hissed. "We had no choice. She's fueling Jonas's confidence. If we can scare her away from testifying or from giving him moral support, we keep him off balance. But the driver messed up." Kailani let out a shaky breath. "We're heading for a meltdown. My father's offering Jonas a hush settlement. He might sign or might not. Meanwhile, I'm losing control." Moses glowered. "We must salvage your father's trust. We can claim Jonas is exploiting that Blair accident for sympathy. Spin it that Jonas was behind it for publicity. We can blame him." Kailani raised a brow. "That's insane. But we might try. We need a scapegoat. If Jonas is pinned as some manipulative freak, maybe we can reframe the entire narrative." She paused. "We just can't let him produce all that evidence unopposed." They parted, each determined to find new angles to deflect blame. But the seeds of paranoia between them grew. If the police connected them to Blair's crash, it would be full-scale criminal territory. Meanwhile, Jonas fumed in a quiet corner of the hospital, visiting Blair again. She was battered, but healing. The police took her statement, suspecting a possible, intentional runoff. Blair clutched Jonas's hand. "I'm sorry you're dragged into this," he squeezed back. "You have nothing to apologize for. They'll regret harming you." He left, calling Matthew to expedite the gathering of phone records linking Moses or Kailani to the driver. Jonas's anger had evolved into a lethal calm. He'd not only finalize the divorce, but also press criminal charges if they dared cross that line. Back at Lotus Flame, Jonas assembled his staff, announcing he'd be absent a bit more often due to personal legal matters. He offered no details, only that the restaurant would keep operating under Ella's supervision as sous chef. The staff, loyal to Jonas, nodded supportively. Amos and Alana found themselves at odds about how to handle the Blair incident. Amos believed that if Moses or Kailani was involved, it was indefensible. Alana, though horrified by the violence, felt a maternal urge to protect Kailani from possible jail time. They argued privately. Amos: "If Kailani played any role, we can't shield her from the law. This is attempted murder. We must disavow it." Alana: "We can't let her go to prison, Amos. She's our daughter." "Maybe it was just some rogue thug Moses hired without Kailani's knowledge." Amos frowned. "We must talk to Jonas. Let him see reason. We can't let the brand be destroyed, nor can we condone an attack on an innocent woman." They agreed to meet Jonas at once, hoping to calm the situation. But they also feared Jonas might show them no mercy this time. Jonas arrived at Amos and Alana's mansion, ignoring the stale grandeur that once intimidated him. They welcomed him into a smaller drawing room. Over tea, Amos cleared his throat. "Jonas, we've heard rumors linking Moses to that car incident with Blair. We want the truth." Jonas's eyes hardened. "The police suspect foul play. Blair nearly died. If any link to Moses is confirmed, I'll push for attempted murder charges. If Kailani is complicit, I won't hesitate to name her, too." Alana's voice trembled. "Our daughter might have been manipulated by Moses. We can't imagine her ordering someone's harm." Jonas scoffed quietly. "Your daughter was more than capable of lying and cheating. Don't underestimate her capacity for cruelty if cornered." Amos exhaled. "We understand your fury, Jonas. We only ask that, if you find proof Moses orchestrated it alone, you don't drag Kailani down unless she was directly involved." Jonas gave a thin, unsmiling nod. "If she's innocent of the actual attack, fine. But I have to see the evidence. Either way, I'm divorcing her. That's non-negotiable." Alana blinked tears. "We accept that. We just want to avoid a criminal conviction for Kailani." Jonas rose, finalizing the discussion. "If she's truly innocent, the investigation will show it. If not, she'll face consequences." The parents exchanged grim looks as Jonas departed. Fearing the looming meltdown, Kailani and Moses hatched a new plan. If they could smear Jonas as an unfaithful husband who staged the attack on Blair for insurance sympathy, they might cast doubt on his entire case. They paid a shady fixer to fabricate text messages from Jonas, discussing scaring Blair for publicity. Their plan: leak these to a friendly tabloid, then claim Jonas faked being a victim to overshadow the Synergy fiasco. One morning, Jonas woke to find an article floating around certain gossip blogs. Chef Jonas's alleged plot: did he stage his lover's accident? The article quoted anonymous sources, claiming Jonas's romance with Blair was the real scandal, and that he manipulated events to gain sympathy in his divorce. Jonas read it with icy detachment. He recognized the style of rumor, a typical move by Kailani or Moses. He immediately called Ms. Harding, who advised they release a statement refuting these baseless accusations, pointing out the lack of evidence. Meanwhile, they could pursue defamation charges if the source is found. Jonas felt a surge of anger, but also a steady confidence. The official investigation and real evidence would overshadow cheap fabrications. The public at large might read a juicy rumor, but the legal system required proof. When Blair saw the gossip article, she panicked, worried it could tarnish Jonas's credibility. Jonas visited her at her friend's farm, hugging her gently. "Don't let the gossip rattle you. We have the police investigating your crash, real forensics. This rumor is a hollow smear." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "It's so vicious, Jonas. I never realized they'd stoop to this." Jonas's jaw tightened. "Kailani and Moses are cornered animals. They'll lash out, but we won't be intimidated. My lawyer's on it." He gazed at her bruised arm, feeling a fierce protectiveness. "You just focus on healing. I'll ensure you're safe." Blair pressed her head to his chest. "I trust you." The affection between them glowed stronger. Jonas felt a tug of guilt for diving into romance before finalizing the divorce, but circumstances had escalated beyond normal rules. He'd protect Blair at all costs. A detective named LeBlanc from the NOPD's Major Crimes Unit contacted Jonas for an interview regarding Blair's forced-off-the-road incident. In a sterile interrogation room, Jonas recounted how Blair was threatened by unknown forces, possibly tied to Moses. He turned over texts from the housemaid indicating potential involvement. LeBlanc listened intently, then revealed, "We've got surveillance footage near Blair's parking spot the day before. A figure resembling one of Moses's known associates slashed her tires. We're gathering more evidence." Jonas's pulse raced in grim satisfaction. If they pinned it on Moses, that meant attempted murder charges or at least assault. That could break the man entirely. Jonas told LeBlanc to keep him updated. Meanwhile, Jonas warned Ms. Harding that if Moses was formally charged, Kailani might attempt to separate herself from him or push everything on him. The meltdown was expanding from civil divorce to potential criminal trials. Jonas believed more than ever that he needed to ensure Kailani faced accountability if she was part of it. In a final attempt to quell the storm, Amos invited Jonas for a private dinner at an upscale bistro. The older man arrived with an exhausted expression, not accompanied by Alana. Over a glass of whiskey, Amos said, "Jonas, my lawyers can set up a comprehensive settlement. We'll pay you a large sum. We'll publicly phrase the divorce as mutual separation. You keep the restaurant brand. Just bury the attack rumors. Spare my daughter from potential prison if the investigation veers that way." Jonas's eyes hardened. "If Kailani actively participated in trying to harm Blair, I won't lie to the cops. My silence isn't for sale if it's a matter of attempted murder." Amos groaned. "I know. But can't we at least keep the affair and synergy scandal out of the media? We'll disclaim Moses as a rogue actor. Maybe that's enough to salvage Kailani from major repercussions." Jonas set his jaw, considering. He realized that if Kailani was less culpable in the actual physical assault, she might avoid criminal charges, so maybe it was feasible to settle. But if she was indeed co-plotting with Moses, she deserved punishment. Jonas gave a measured reply. "We can sign an NDA about the Synergy fiasco and the affair if she's found innocent of the attack, but if she's guilty, no deal." Amos, desperate, nodded. "All right, I'll talk to her. I hope the forensics clear her name." Jonas exhaled. "We'll see." One sweltering afternoon, the police, armed with new security footage and phone data, arrested Moses on suspicion of conspiracy to commit assault on Blair. The news spread rapidly among business circles. The Synergy fiasco was overshadowed by the bigger scandal. Finance consultant Moses, linked to the wealthy jewelry family, indicted for orchestrating an attack on Chef Jonas's rumored girlfriend. Kaylani's phone blew up with calls from frantic associates. The family brand reeled from negative press. Amos and Alana realized that if Moses was pinned for the assault, public assumption might also link Kaylani. The meltdown was unstoppable. Jonas watched the coverage calmly, seeing how the headlines no longer scapegoated him. Instead, they labeled Moses a cunning manipulator. Sitting in his condo, Kaylani having moved temporarily to a friend's place to avoid Jonas's hostility, Jonas felt a grim satisfaction. One piece down. Next, the divorce. Ms. Harding updated Jonas that with Moses arrested, the Synergy contract was effectively worthless. The jewelry empire's stock dipped as rumors of internal betrayal spread. Jonas had no sympathy. They reaped what they sowed. With Moses behind bars awaiting trial for the alleged assault, Kaylani teetering on the edge of complicity, and Amos and Alana scrambling to salvage the family's business reputation, Jonas stood in the center of the swirling chaos, unwavering. His divorce motion advanced swiftly. The path to fully exposing Kaylani and possibly linking her to the assault loomed. Meanwhile, Blair recovered under Jonas's protective care, her bond with him deepening. Jonas closed his eyes, recalling the moment he discovered Kaylani's betrayal. So much had changed. Now, with the Synergy fiasco crumbling and Moses facing criminal charges, the final chapters of this saga approached. Jonas vowed that if Kaylani had any part in harming Blair, he'd deliver the coup de grace without mercy. Chapter 7. Legal Battles. Betrayal on Trial. Sitting in a stark interrogation room, Moses wore a rumpled suit, flanked by his defense attorney. He was charged with conspiracy to commit aggravated assault, possibly attempted murder, depending on how the DA framed the car sabotage. The evidence of slash marks on Blair's tires and cell tower pings linking Moses's associate to the scene weighed heavily. Desperate, Moses insisted. I had zero intention of murder. It was just a scare tactic. We need to shift blame someone else orchestrated it. The attorney grimaced, explaining that unless they found a bigger scapegoat or hammered out a plea deal, Moses faced years in prison. Moses's mind reeled. Could he pin the entire plot on Kaylani? Possibly claim she demanded an attack on Blair out of jealousy? If you can prove or at least allege Kaylani was the mastermind, the lawyer said quietly, the DA might reduce your charges. They want a bigger name. Moses's eyes narrowed. Throw Kaylani under the bus? That might be the only way. Meanwhile, in a high-rise apartment she borrowed from a friend, Kaylani read the news of Moses's arrest with mounting terror. She'd told him to scare Blair, but never explicitly said harm her. Or had she, in a moment of rage? She recalled drunkenly telling Moses, I want that farm girl out of Jonas's life. Make sure she disappears. Now it might bite her. Her father, Amos, had arranged top-notch lawyers to shield her from any suggestion she was complicit. But if Moses cut a deal by testifying she ordered the assault, she might be indicted. I need Jonas to sign a settlement fast, hush everything, and disclaim me from the assault, she thought. But Jonas was refusing all calls. A swirl of panic squeezed Kaylani's chest. I won't go to prison, she vowed. She dialed her mother, sobbing about how Moses lied, that she was merely venting, not truly wanting violence. Alana comforted her, urging patience, but the tension was palpable. The meltdown had arrived. At Ms. Harding's office, Jonas finalized the last details to push the divorce through at maximum speed. Thanks to the damning evidence of Kaylani's adultery and probable complicity in the Synergy scheme, Jonas stood strong. He demanded immediate dissolution of the marriage at fault of Kaylani, full retention of his restaurant brand with no spousal claim, a public statement clarifying the synergy fiasco was orchestrated by Moses with Kaylani's help, releasing Jonas from blame. Amos and Alana's lawyers tried to negotiate, offering a multi-million-dollar settlement if Jonas omitted Kaylani's name from official assault allegations. Jonas considered. If Kaylani truly was behind the violence, he wanted no hush arrangement. But if it was purely Moses's doing, perhaps he could sign a narrower statement focusing on Moses's guilt. Ms. Harding advised Jonas to remain flexible but keep final say. Jonas nodded, wanting the truth to prevail, especially regarding Blair's assault. After weeks of partial physical therapy, Blair was cleared to leave the hospital and continue recuperating at a safer location, possibly a friend's remote property. Jonas visited daily, helping her gather her belongings. She insisted on hugging him long. "I feel guilty that you're in this war partly because of me," Blair whispered. Jonas shook his head firmly. "No. I was in the war the moment Kaylani cheated. You're the best thing that happened among all this chaos." She teared up. "I just hate that I was nearly killed. I still get nightmares of that SUV." Jonas promised to stand by her. "Once the divorce is final, I want us to be open about our relationship, if you're ready. We can't let fear control us." She nodded, eyes shining. "I want that too, Jonas. Take your time. But I'm here." They parted with a tender kiss. The emotional bond grew stronger each passing day, overshadowing Jonas's regrets about how his marriage had collapsed. As the DA prepared formal charges against Moses, a grand jury convened to review the assault evidence. In a dramatic turn, Moses's defense signaled he might cooperate if the DA considered reducing charges. Rumors spread that Moses was naming higher-ups who pushed the attack. Jonas heard from Ms. Harding that Moses was likely to blame Kaylani for inciting the violence. If that stuck, Kaylani faced potential criminal liability. Jonas felt a swirl of emotions. Part of him wanted Kaylani to face punishment if she truly plotted to harm Blair. Another part realized any major scandal would blow up his own restaurant's brand by association. Ms. Harding calmly reminded him that the best approach was to stand firm, let the DA do their job, and finalize the divorce swiftly. Jonas agreed, though he stayed alert for any new angles. One evening, Jonas found Kaylani waiting in the hallway outside Lotus Flame, ignoring the staff's wary glances. She wore large sunglasses, a designer coat, looking disheveled. She approached Jonas with trembling shoulders. "We need to talk privately. Please." Jonas hesitated, then led her to a small meeting room inside the restaurant. There, Kaylani broke down, tears streaming. "Jonas, you know me. I might be selfish, but I never wanted Blair physically hurt." Moses twisted my words. "I admit I was furious you found another woman, but not to the point of murder. Please sign a quiet settlement. I'll disclaim the synergy contract. Let you keep your restaurant. Just don't testify that I had any part in that assault." Jonas studied her, emotionless. "Are you denying you told Moses to make Blair disappear? Or something akin to that?" She swallowed. "I might have vented drunkenly, but I never meant literal violence." Jonas exhaled. "Then let the investigation exonerate you if that's true. As for the divorce, yes, I'll sign a final settlement if it fully grants me freedom and you don't claim a cent from me." Kaylani nodded frantically. "Yes, I'll do it. But the statement must protect me from any criminal repercussions. If you let me be scapegoated, my father might cut me off. I'll be ruined." Jonas gave a cold half-smile. "You played with fire. Now you face the burns. But if you truly are innocent of the assault's planning, I won't lie to the cops. That's all I can offer." She sobbed, seeing no better path, eventually stumbling out, leaving Jonas with a sense that she'd do anything to avoid prison. Shortly after, Alana requested a private talk with Jonas in a final attempt to quell tensions. Meeting him at a quiet cafe, she confessed something that made Jonas's jaw tighten. Years ago, that no-child clause wasn't really Kalani's idea. I insisted on it because I disliked the idea of you overshadowing her career, fatherhood dividing her focus from the family empire. I pressured her to push you. She initially showed interest in having kids with you, but I forced the clause. Now, seeing how things ended, I regret it. That might have driven a wedge. Jonas felt a pang, so the blame wasn't entirely Kalani's. She had wanted kids at some point? He recalled how she was vehement about it, but apparently Alana amplified it. This new info softened Jonas's rage slightly, though not enough to forgive the affair or the assault. I appreciate your honesty, Alana, but it doesn't excuse her cheating or alleged involvement in harming Blair. Alana nodded, tears in her eyes. I know. Just I wanted you to understand the bigger picture. We do see you as a capable man who could have been a genuine son-in-law if things had been different. Jonas left, mind stirred by that revelation, but still resolved to end the marriage. With Ms. Harding's help, the initial divorce hearing arrived. Kalani, disheveled but dressed in a conservative suit, arrived with her own high-powered attorney. Jonas arrived calmly, Blair absent to avoid fueling rumors. The judge reviewed preliminary evidence. The affair was undeniable, giving Jonas grounds for at-fault divorce. The synergy contract fiasco suggested Kalani acted maliciously in mixing finances. Meanwhile, the no-child clause was deemed overshadowed by her infidelity. The judge, there's overwhelming proof Ms. Kalani violated marital vows. Unless you challenge this, I see no reason not to grant Mr. Jonas a swift at-fault divorce, with him retaining all business interests. Kalani's lawyer tried to argue unsubstantiated assault accusations, but Jonas's counsel pointed out the separate criminal proceeding was about Moses, not Jonas. The judge set a short timeline for finalizing the decree if no new evidence emerged. Kalani glared at Jonas across the room, tears brimming. Jonas met her eyes without flinching, recalling the day they wed. So much had changed. He felt no remorse for exposing her. She chose betrayal first. He left the courtroom, ignoring her forlorn call of, "Jonas, wait." He simply walked out, relieved that legal victory was near. Simultaneously, Moses sat in jail, negotiating with the DA. He offered to testify that Kalani explicitly ordered Blair's harm, if that reduced his sentence. The DA weighed it carefully. If Moses had texts or recorded calls proving Kalani's complicity, it might be enough for a separate indictment. However, they needed concrete evidence, not just his word. Moses lacked conclusive digital proof because Kalani always demanded face-to-face secrecy. Thus, the DA remained cautious. "We can't fully trust your statement without corroboration. Right now, the assault evidence points to you. Kalani is not exonerated, but we can't charge her on hearsay alone." Moses seethed, cursing his lack of direct incriminating messages from Kalani. He cursed her for being careful, ironically. His plan to drag her down with him was failing. Jonas emerged from the divorce hearing with near certainty that the final decree would soon be granted. Moses languished in jail, lacking the bulletproof evidence to implicate Kalani in the assault. Kalani tried desperately to salvage her future, hoping a quiet settlement and some show of contrition might shield her from the worst. The tension soared as Jonas's retribution approached its zenith. He gazed at the city skyline from the courthouse steps, phone in hand. A text from Blair read, "Thinking of you. Keep me posted." He smiled faintly, determined to finalize the divorce, secure himself, and then publicly embrace his new future with Blair. The swirl of legal battles, extramarital fiascos, and violent attempts all converged on a single point. Jonas was about to close the door on Kaylani's manipulation forever. Chapter 8. The Sentencing and a New Dawn. Within weeks, Moses appeared in criminal court, indicted on conspiracy to commit assault. A partial jury was assembled quickly due to the high-profile nature. The prosecution laid out the tire slashing, the forced runoff, and phone data from Moses's associate. Moses's defense tried to claim Moses only wanted to scare Blair, not kill her. Jonas attended some sessions, quietly observing from the gallery, wanting closure. Blair testified about the terror she felt being forced off the road, how the SUV nearly ended her life. Tears glistened as she recalled the hospital ordeal. Jonas watched her courage with pride. The DA hammered the point that even intimidation leading to potential lethal harm is a grave crime. The jury listened intently. Moses, cornered, tried a final time to implicate Kaylani, insisting, "She told me to get rid of Blair." But with no textual proof or recorded audio, the court found it speculative, lacking direct evidence. The judge allowed the statement but reminded the jury to weigh credibility. In the end, Moses's guilt seemed undeniable. After days of testimony, the jury returned a verdict. Guilty of conspiracy to commit assault with a deadly weapon. Sentencing guidelines suggested multiple years in prison. Moses's face turned ashen. He shot Jonas a hateful glare across the courtroom, blaming him for orchestrating this fiasco. Jonas merely held Blair's hand, relieved that justice was served. The official sentencing would follow in a few weeks, but Moses's downfall was effectively sealed. At hearing the trial outcome, Kaylani was secretly relieved Moses took the full brunt of the assault charge. She might avoid criminal charges unless Moses produced new evidence of her direct involvement. However, she also felt a hollow dread Moses was effectively done. Her synergy dream lay in ruins, her father's trust shattered, and her marriage near dissolution. She was alone, perhaps ironically reaping the consequences. She texted Jonas again, "You got what you wanted? Moses is locked up. Please, let's settle the divorce quietly. I don't want more drama." Jonas responded with a single word. Agreed. She exhaled, sensing the war was almost over, though she felt no true relief, only regret. Days later, Ms. Harding oversaw the final negotiation. Kaylani arrived with her attorneys, looking pale and subdued. Amos and Alana also attended but remained silent, letting the lawyers handle it. Jonas sat calmly, stoic as always, his presence emanating quiet power. The settlement terms: at-fault divorce in favor of Jonas due to documented adultery. Jonas retains 100% of Lotus Flame and any expansions. No spousal support or alimony to Kaylani. A confidentiality agreement limiting Jonas from publicly shaming Kaylani about the synergy scam in exchange for a substantial but not extravagant sum. Jonas decided he'd accept some hush money if it freed him from further entanglement. Kaylani disclaims all ownership of Jonas's brand or future restaurant ventures. The judge quickly approved. Kaylani signed with trembling fingers, tears sliding down her cheeks. She tried to meet Jonas's gaze, but he avoided eye contact, only murmuring a curt, "We're done." She left, face streaked with tears, free from immediate criminal charges, but having lost her marriage, dignity, and father's respect. Jonas stepped outside, inhaling a massive breath of liberation. Ms. Harding shook his hand. "Congratulations. You're no longer bound by that prenup. You're entirely free." He nodded, feeling an avalanche of relief. At last, the anchor around his neck was gone. As Jonas crossed the lobby, Amos approached him, offering a firm handshake. "Jonas, I know we can't fix the past, but I appreciate how you handled things. You didn't go for the jugular in the synergy fiasco. We'll respect your privacy." Jonas eyed him with polite neutrality. "I won't sabotage your business if you keep your daughter in check. Sorry it had to end this way." Amos sighed. "We share the blame. Good luck, Chef Jonas." Alana stood behind, eyes red, giving a slight nod. Jonas turned away, forging into his new future. That evening, Jonas invited Blair to a quiet dinner at a small, romantic bistro. No paparazzi, no synergy illusions, just them. Over candlelight, he revealed the finalized divorce. Blair smiled, tears moistening her eyes. "So you're truly free now?" Jonas nodded, capturing her hand. "Yes, free to be with someone I actually love and respect, if you'll have me." She laughed softly. "Chef Jonas, you had me from that first farm trip." Their kiss carried a sense of renewed hope. Jonas's heart soared. The nightmares of Kaylani's betrayal and synergy fiasco felt distant. He'd claimed victory not just in business but in reclaiming his personal life. Yet a question hovered. Did Jonas want children soon? That no child for 10 years clause was gone. Could Blair fulfill that paternal longing? She was equally excited to start a family, eventually. They shared a sweet discussion about how it might look, each brimming with cautious excitement. Amos and Alana, frantic about controlling the scandal, announced a short statement to the media. "We regret personal differences have led Jonas Thompson and Kaylani to part ways. The Synergy project is canceled. We remain on cordial terms." The statement lacked mention of Moses's assault case. They tried to bury it quietly. Some tabloids circulated rumors about an affair, but with Moses indicted, the public narrative mostly pinned blame on him. Kaylani's role was minimized, though insiders knew the real story. Jonas found it satisfactory he wanted no more swirl of gossip. Lotus Flames soared in popularity, partially from curiosity about the divorced chef who overcame adversity, but Jonas handled it gracefully. He refused interviews that probed his personal heartbreak, focusing on new menu expansions. Freed from Kaylani's overshadowing presence, he poured creativity into the kitchen, ironically boosting the restaurant's success. Weeks later, Moses received final sentencing for the assault conspiracy. The judge, unmoved by Moses's pleas, handed down a 5-year prison term, plus fines. No leniency was offered, as the evidence showed Moses orchestrated the intimidation that nearly killed Blair. Jonas and Blair, informed of the outcome, felt relief the man who targeted them would be locked away. Kaylani, meanwhile, publicly distanced herself from Moses, claiming ignorance of his violent methods. She posted a bland statement about focusing on personal growth after a painful divorce. In private, she cursed him for not shielding her from scandal. Jonas didn't bother tracking her updates. He was done with the entire fiasco. On a bright morning, Jonas stood before the staff of Lotus Flame, announcing expansions into a second location funded solely by his own rightful assets. No synergy nonsense. The staff cheered. Ella, the loyal sous chef, teared up, hugging Jonas. "We knew you'd triumph." Jonas offered her a position as lead chef at the new branch, furthering her career. She beamed, overjoyed. After the meeting, Jonas stepped into his office, picking up his phone to call Blair. "I'm thinking about naming the new venture something that reflects fresh starts and organic synergy, real synergy, not forced. Want to collaborate with your produce lines?" Blair laughed happily on the other end. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." As he hung up, Jonas felt a surge of positivity. The gloom of Kaylani's betrayal had parted, replaced by a genuine future with someone who respected him. He'd spent so long feeling caged by the prenup and illusions. Now, every day felt like a step into freedom. At day's end, Jonas strolled out of Lotus Flame, pausing under the warm New Orleans sunset. He recalled the disastrous Synergy contract meeting, the humiliations from Kaylani's affair, Moses' sabotage, the near-fatal assault on Blair, all culminating in a resounding victory for Jonas's dignity and career. Freed from a loveless marriage, he could chase fatherhood with Blair if they chose, build a thriving culinary empire, and never again bow to the illusions of wealth or manipulative spouses. He hailed a taxi to meet Blair for dinner, mind already envisioning new menu ideas, new expansions. The future felt open-ended, bright, and he walked with the surety of a man who overcame betrayal by forging a cunning, unyielding path of revenge. Jonas, once an overshadowed husband, now stood as an unstoppable force in both love and business. Chapter 9. New Horizons, Old Echoes. 6 months had rolled by since Jonas finalized his divorce from Kaylani. In that half-year, the Synergy scandal fizzled, overshadowed by the sensational conviction of Moses for the assault on Blair. Kaylani, shunned by her father Amos and left with minimal support from her mother Alana, quietly moved to another city to restart her life, as some rumors said. Jonas, meanwhile, found a sense of calm and fulfillment that had been absent for years. At Lotus Flame, business soared. Freed from Kaylani's meddling, Jonas introduced fresh creative menus, investing in a second location. The critical acclaim around his signature spice gumbo, Chef Jonas's Special, garnered national press. He still rose before dawn, immersing himself in produce deliveries, but the tension that once haunted him was gone. The staff noticed his lighter mood, especially as he frequently stepped out to see Blair, the woman who offered him genuine warmth and unwavering support. One early morning, Jonas finished a meeting with his sous chef, Ella, addressing new menu rotations. Ella smiled. "Chef, you look relaxed, even happy. The divorce behind you?" Jonas nodded. "Yes, Ella. I never realized how much stress I carried. I can actually breathe now." Ella gave a wry grin. "Word around the kitchen is you might do more than breathe, like maybe a new relationship?" Jonas chuckled, not denying it. He'd long since embraced Blair publicly as a close companion, though they kept details private to avoid tabloids. But in the city's culinary scene, whispers spread anyway. Across town, Blair's organic venture blossomed. A chain of local grocery stores featured her brand, forging deals that Jonas helped facilitate. She'd become a minor celebrity in the sustainable farming community. Each afternoon, she personally delivered fresh produce to Jonas's kitchens, not only ensuring top quality, but sharing precious moments together. One afternoon, after finishing deliveries at the second Lotus Flame branch, Blair lingered in Jonas's new office, a modest room with stacked recipe binders and decor, reflecting Jonas's love for traveling cuisines. They sipped sweet tea, discussing expansions. Blair teased, "We're both entrepreneurs now, but you remain the bigger star, Chef Jonas." Jonas smirked. "I'll trade star status if it means I can spend more time with you." He gently brushed a stray hair from her face. Their closeness radiated a warmth that contrasted the bitterness that once surrounded him. Thank God the old constraints are gone, Jonas thought. One evening at Blair's small farmhouse outside the city, Jonas found himself mesmerized by the sight of her interacting with kids from a local 4-H club who visited to learn about sustainable farming. Blair's easy rapport with them, showing them how to water seedlings, explaining soil health, sent a pang through Jonas. He recalled how the no child for 10 years, clause in the old prenup, had stifled him. Now, he was free. Did Blair share his longing for a child? That night, while relaxing on Blair's porch, he mustered courage. "Blair, have you thought about having children someday? Not to push, Just, I used to want them. Kailani forbid it. But with you, I see a possibility. She set her iced tea down, eyes bright with emotion. Jonas, I do want a family eventually, but let's take it step by step. If that's your dream, I'm open to it. I love children. A rush of gratitude warmed Jonas. He kissed her softly, murmuring, We'll see how life unfolds, but it's a relief not to be muzzled by an oppressive contract. Blair teased, I'd never muzzle you. They laughed, comforted by the honesty between them. Though Kailani had retreated from the public eye, Jonas occasionally received unmarked letters at his restaurant. They bore no return address, but the neat handwriting was unmistakably Kailani's. Ms. Harding suggested he consider if there was any threat or legal matter. Jonas usually glanced at them, then tossed them aside, not wanting to re-engage. But curiosity grew. At night, he rummaged through a small pile he'd collected. One letter read, Jonas, I know I wronged you. I never thought we'd end like this. Moses twisted me, or maybe I let him. But I never wanted it to be so ugly, I'm sorry. Another letter said, I hear you moved on with that farm girl. I suppose you're happy. Wish I could have given you that happiness. Maybe in another life. Jonas read them with a mix of pity and annoyance. He felt no desire to respond. She's likely lonely, seeking closure, he thought. But after everything, the best closure was silence. He shredded them. He had no illusions that Kailani truly regretted her manipulations. This was guilt more than contrition. Deep in Angola prison, Moses languished, wearing a standard jumpsuit, face gaunt with resentment. He'd spent months appealing, to no avail. The system pinned him as the mastermind behind Blair's near-fatal crash. In the prison yard, rumor had it Moses was trying to contact certain fixers outside, hoping for leverage or blackmail. The only bright spot for him was a rumored possibility that he might be eligible for parole after half his sentence if he showed good behavior, but that was years away. One day, a visitor arrived, Kailani, disguised in sunglasses, seeking her own closure. She found Moses in a dingy visitation booth, separated by plexiglass. They spoke via telephone receivers. She stared at him, voice trembling with anger. You pinned everything on me, said I told you to do it. I nearly got indicted, Moses snarled. You did want Jonas's mistress gone. I only carried out your wish, and you left me to rot in here. They traded accusations. The once a lustful alliance between them was replaced by bitterness. Kailani parted, tears streaming. She realized they'd destroyed each other's illusions, leaving only regret. A month after the divorce finalization, Jonas was surprised when Amos and Alana invited him for a private dinner at a refined French restaurant. He debated ignoring it, but decided to hear them out. Over delicate plates of coq au vin, Amos cleared his throat. Jonas, we owe you an apology. Our arrogance and Kailani's manipulations caused you so much pain. We see now you were the honest one. We judged you by your profession, not realizing your integrity was greater than many corporate figures. Alana chimed in, voice subdued. We can't excuse what Kailani did, nor how we pressured that prenuptial. I know we can't fix the past, but we wanted to say we're sorry, and we're glad you found new happiness with Blair. Even the rumor mill says you two might start a family. We wish you well. Jonas studied them, sensing genuine remorse. He gave a small nod. I appreciate that. I harbored anger toward you for enabling Kailani's selfishness. But I realize you also were misled by Moses. We're all freed from that chaos now. They parted on amicable terms, Amos offering a handshake, Alana hugging Jonas. He left with a sense of closure regarding the older generation. He no longer carried bitterness. Late one afternoon, Blair met Jonas at the second Lotus Flame location, a shy smile on her lips. She asked if they could talk privately in the back office. Jonas, noticing her trembling hands, felt worry coil in his gut. They closed the door, Blair exhaling shakily. "Jonas," she began, voice quivering with a mix of fear and excitement. "I'm pregnant." Jonas froze, heart hammering. He'd fantasized about fatherhood, but now it was real. She continued. "I tested this morning, then saw my doctor. I'm about 10 weeks along." A wave of joy and apprehension slammed him. "Blair, that's amazing." He pulled her into a gentle hug, eyes shining. Then, concern flitted in. "Are you sure you're safe? After what Kaylani and Moses tried, we must ensure no threat remains." Blair nodded, tears forming. "I'm nervous, but I want this child. You do too, right?" Jonas's voice caught. "Yes, absolutely. This was always my dream, to be a father, freely. With you it feels right." She burst into relieved tears, burying her face in his chest. Jonas stroked her hair, vowing to protect both mother and child. It was a life-affirming twist he never expected so soon, but one he embraced wholeheartedly. Word reached Kaylani eventually, through the city's grapevine, that Jonas's new partner was pregnant. She confronted her father, raging, "He's having a child so soon after divorcing me? That violates everything he wanted, kids, but we had an agreement." Amos retorted, "That agreement was void the moment you cheated. You have no claim on Jonas's life." Kaylani fumed, imagining Jonas and Blair building the family she once denied him. She felt a pang of jealousy. Some part of her recognized how her own choices led here. Others in her circle whispered that Jonas was truly in love with Blair, that they might marry. Kaylani seethed, but with Moses gone and the synergy fiasco dead, she had no recourse. She had to swallow the bitter pill that Jonas moved on to fatherhood without her. 3 weeks after learning of Blair's pregnancy, Jonas planned a special night. He invited Blair to the original Lotus Flame after closing hours. The dining room glowed softly with candlelight, a private meal Jonas personally cooked. She arrived, glowing with early pregnancy, curiosity dancing in her eyes. They shared a sumptuous dinner, fresh Gulf shrimp in a spicy Creole sauce, a petite salad from Blair's own organic greens, soft jazz played overhead. As they finished dessert, Jonas stood, taking her hand gently. "Blair, you've given me a fresh start after heartbreak. You stood by me when I was at war with my ex, never doubting me. Now we have a child on the way." He reached into his jacket, pulling out a small box. Opening it revealed a simple but elegant ring. "I never believed in second chances so soon, but with you everything feels right. Will you marry me and build a family together?" Blair gasped, tears spilling. "Yes, Jonas, yes!" She leapt into his arms, the ring shimmering in the candlelight. The euphoria of that moment washed away all the darkness of the past. The staff, peeking from the kitchen, broke into quiet applause. They stepped outside into the balmy New Orleans night, hand in hand, newly engaged. Jonas's heart soared with the acceptance that the agony of Kaylani's betrayal had led him here. A new love, a child on the way, and the restaurant empire thriving. He whispered to Blair, "We overcame so much. I can't wait to see what's next." She smiled, leaning into him, the city lights reflecting in her tear-filled eyes. The saga pressed on, but for now, they embraced an undeniable sense of hope. Chapter 10. Fractured Ties and Public Reckoning. Jonas and Blair's engagement news spread across the restaurant staff quickly. Ella squealed with delight, the rest of the team congratulating the chef who'd finally found happiness after such a tumultuous year. A handful of tabloids picked up a small piece about Chef Jonas engaged to local organic farmer, though the city's bigger scandal had died down after Moses's conviction. Jonas ignored the minor media buzz, preferring a quiet celebration. Blair moved some personal belongings to Jonas's condo, wanting to keep a stable environment for the baby. She decorated a spare room as a makeshift nursery. Jonas felt daily surges of wonder he was going to be a father. Meanwhile, Ms. Harding offered legal advice about drafting a new prenuptial with Blair if they desired. Jonas ironically found it comical after how oppressive the previous prenup was. Blair teased, "You know I'm not after your restaurant fortune, chef." Jonas laughed. "I trust you more than any contract." They decided no prenuptial was needed. Jonas valued trust over legal constraints this time. In another city, Kailani struggled to piece together a normal life post-scandal. The Synergy fiasco left her socially ostracized. Moses was in prison, and her father's unconditional support had cooled. She took a modest job as a jewelry boutique consultant under a different chain, no longer enjoying the plush privileges she once had. She spent sleepless nights replaying how Jonas bested her at every turn, the affair evidence, the Synergy sabotage, the divorce. She found the weight of regret heavier each day. One afternoon, Kailani impulsively wrote another letter to Jonas, acknowledging, "You were right. I see now how destructive I was. I lost everything. If you can forgive me someday, I'd appreciate it." She never mailed it, fearing it was pointless. She sank into a routine of lonely evenings in her small apartment, haunted by memories of the lavish condo she once shared with Jonas. Though serving a multi-year sentence, Moses made one last legal appeal, claiming new evidence might exonerate him. The hearing turned out to be a hollow motion. He lacked any real exculpatory proof. The judge dismissed it. Meanwhile, rumors inside the prison suggested Moses had become consumed with bitterness, threatening from behind bars to take Jonas down if given a chance. But with no allies outside, his threats rang hollow. Jonas learned of this from Ms. Harding, who shrugged. "He's just grasping at straws. He can't hurt you now. Let it go." Jonas did let it go. He felt no fear of a man locked away. All that remained was the faint stench of their past conflict. Around Blair's 5th month of pregnancy, a complication arose. She began experiencing abnormal pains and frequent dizzy spells. Her OB/GYN recommended partial bed rest to ensure the baby's health. Alarmed, Jonas reorganized his schedules, determined to spend more time caring for Blair. She felt guilty, not wanting him to neglect the restaurant expansions, but Jonas insisted, "Your health and the baby come first." He hired a personal nurse to check on Blair daily at the condo. He prepared nutrient-packed meals from organic ingredients, wanting to do everything right. The memory of losing his fatherhood dreams once made him fiercely protective now. "We'll get through this," he soothed Blair as she lay on the couch, wincing from a sudden contraction. She squeezed his hand, trusting in his calm strength. One afternoon, Alana unexpectedly turned up at Jonas's condo door. Blair was resting in the bedroom, so Jonas stepped into the hallway to speak to Alana privately. She explained that Kailani was in a depressive spiral, refusing therapy. Alana asked if Jonas might consider speaking with Kailani to offer closure or partial forgiveness. Jonas stiffened. "Why me? She burned that bridge," Alana pleaded. "She thinks hearing you say you forgive her might help her move on. You don't owe her that. But as a mother, I'm asking. She's my daughter, Jonas." Jonas sighed, recalling how he once loved Kailani. "I'm not sure I have forgiveness in me, but if it truly prevents her from doing something rash, maybe a brief conversation." "Where?" Alana suggested a neutral cafe in the city they used to frequent, the Magnolia Lounge. Jonas hesitated. Blair was having complications. He didn't want stress. but a small part of him recognized that burying old ghosts might bring peace. "All right," he finally said. "One short meeting. No drama." Alana thanked him profusely, departing with watery eyes. At the Magnolia Lounge, Jonas arrived first, ordering a black coffee. The homely interior smelled of baked goods and fresh roast. Memories flickered. Once he and Kailani had laughed over croissants here. Now it felt like a lifetime ago. Soon she walked in, wearing a modest blouse, hair subdued. She looked thinner, shadows under her eyes. Jonas stood politely, motioning her to the small table. They sat in awkward silence until Kailani blurted, "Jonas, you look well. I heard you're expecting a child with your new fiancé." "Congratulations, truly." She tried to smile, though her eyes welled with tears. Jonas cleared his throat. "Yes, Blair and I are expecting. Life goes on." Kailani nodded, tears slipping. "I messed up everything, didn't I? I thought hooking up with Moses and forging those deals would give me control. Instead, I lost you, nearly faced prison, and my father lost trust in me." Jonas sipped his coffee calmly, saying nothing. She sniffled. "I wrote letters you never responded to. I just wanted a crumb of your forgiveness so I can move forward." Jonas regarded her with a long, measured gaze. "Kailani, you destroyed our marriage with your affair and your greed. You nearly got Blair killed, or at least your involvement was tangential. I have little reason to forgive. But I'm not here to perpetuate hate. I'm building my future with Blair. I'm about to be a father. I have no space in my heart for resentment anymore, so if you want closure, yes, I'll say I release my anger." Kailani clutched her napkin, crying softly. "Thank you. That means more than you know. I lost my way. I'm sorry for everything. I know it can't fix what I did, but I pray your new life is peaceful. And I'm relieved you'll have the child you always wanted." Jonas dipped his head in a muted nod. "Take care of yourself, Kailani. I won't contact you again, but I won't hinder you either." She sniffled. "I understand." They parted with a brief, emotion-laden handshake. The once a lavish socialite left the cafe, shoulders trembling. Jonas exhaled, feeling an odd combination of relief and sorrow. The chapter was truly closed. 2 weeks later, Jonas received an ornate invitation to a philanthropic gala in New Orleans, hosted by Amos and Alana. The note read, "We wish to honor Chef Jonas's contributions to local culinary arts and sustainable farming collaborations. Please attend with Ms. Blair if her health permits." Jonas was stunned an olive branch from the in-laws, wanting to publicly mend fences. Ms. Harding advised it might be beneficial for Jonas's brand to attend, demonstrating no ongoing feud. Blair, now in her 6th month of pregnancy, felt stable enough to go out if she took it easy. She agreed, seeing it as a chance to finalize goodwill with the older generation. Jonas took her on a short shopping trip, buying a comfortable yet elegant maternity dress. He himself wore a sleek suit. On the night of the gala, they arrived at a large ballroom draped in gold and white decor, paparazzi snapping photos. Inside, Amos approached Jonas, shaking his hand warmly before the crowd. He publicly praised Jonas's dedication to the city's culinary renaissance, ignoring the past drama. Alana also embraced Blair, congratulating her on the upcoming baby. The guests applauded politely, though a few recognized the irony. Just a year ago, Jonas was overshadowed by this family. Now he was the star they honored. Blair stood proudly by Jonas's side, ignoring discreet questions from the tabloids about Chef Jonas's new love, pregnant with his child. Jonas gave a brief statement of gratitude, never mentioning Kailani or the Synergy scandal. Amos gave him a nod of approval. In that moment, Jonas saw how things had come full circle. The illusions once manipulated by Kailani were replaced by genuine respect for Jonas's achievements. He'd outmaneuvered them, but graciously accepted the public olive branch. As the gala wound down, Jonas and Blair slipped away, hand in hand, seeking fresh air on a balcony overlooking the Mississippi River. The moonlight reflected on the water. Blair rested her head on Jonas's shoulder, the child in her womb gently nudging. Jonas inhaled, reflecting on the emotional war he'd fought. He survived betrayal, orchestrated revenge that brought justice upon Moses, and severed ties with Kailani. Now the in-laws sought amends. Blair carried his unborn baby, and the path ahead glowed with genuine hope. He kissed Blair's temple softly. "We've come so far. I never imagined this peace." She smiled. "You deserve it, Jonas." The hum of distant jazz floated in the night air. They stood there, content that the future, while uncertain, brimmed with possibilities unburdened by the shadows of the past. Chapter 11. A New Arrival. A Shadow Returns. 2 months after the gala, Blair went into labor a bit earlier than expected. Jonas, in the midst of launching his second Lotus Flame location, rushed to the hospital, heart hammering. Blair endured intense contractions, but with modern medical care, the baby's delivery proceeded. Jonas held her hand, whispering encouragement as the midwife guided them. Hours later, an infant's cry echoed in the sterile birthing room. "It's a boy," the doctor announced, placing a tiny, squirming newborn in Blair's arms. Tears streamed down Jonas's face, overwhelmed with gratitude. After years of forced childlessness, he was finally a father. Blair trembled with relief, cradling their son. Jonas leaned in, brushing a kiss on her damp forehead, voice thick with emotion. "Thank you. This is everything." They named the child Ethan Jonas. The hospital staff congratulated them, some recognizing Jonas as the famous chef. For once, Jonas forgot all about restaurants or business. This moment holding his son was the culmination of a dream once denied. Blair, exhausted but joyful, beamed at him. "We did it." Jonas nodded, silent tears of happiness shining. Once news spread, employees at Lotus Flame threw a celebratory gathering, showering Jonas with baby gifts. Social media carried mild headlines about Chef Jonas welcomes a new baby with fiancée Blair. Interestingly, Amos and Alana sent a lavish baby hamper with a heartfelt note. "We wish baby Ethan good health and a bright future. Congratulations, Jonas and Blair." Jonas felt a pang of satisfaction that he was no longer an appendage to the family empire. He stood as a respected figure in his own right, receiving their goodwill from a position of equality. Even Kailani sent a brief congratulatory text from her distant city, writing, "Heard you had a son. Congrats. I truly wish you happiness." Jonas, holding no bitterness now, didn't respond, simply letting her well wishes lie. Settling into life with a newborn was both exhilarating and exhausting. Blair and Jonas alternated sleepless nights, learning the rhythms of feeding and rocking baby Ethan to sleep. The condo that once felt sterile now bustled with baby cries, soft lullabies, scattered diapers. Jonas discovered fatherhood was more demanding than any kitchen rush. Yet he relished every minute, cooking special postpartum meals for Blair, cherishing the tiny squeaks Ethan made in his arms. He scaled back his restaurant hours temporarily, delegating more to Ella. The staff supported him wholeheartedly, proud to see Jonas embrace fatherhood wholeheartedly. Blair's organic business also slowed for a while, but loyal partners stepped up, distributing her produce lines while she recovered. Despite the chaos, they found a sweet harmony, forging deeper love as they navigated parenthood. 2 months after Ethan's birth, Jonas was surprised by a small package delivered to the restaurant. Inside was a delicate silver baby rattle engraved with Ethan Jonas. Attached was a note. From Kailani, no expectations, just a gift. K. Jonas stared at it, conflicted. Part of him wanted to toss it, but another part recognized the gesture might be genuine or at least well-intentioned. In the end, he stashed it in a drawer, unsure if he'd ever give it to Ethan. He told Blair about it. She shrugged. Your call? If it helps you find closure, maybe keep it. Jonas nodded, letting the memory of Kailani fade once more. A shockwave hit when Jonas learned from Ms. Harding that Moses, due to prison overcrowding and some obscure legal technicalities, had a parole hearing far earlier than expected. If he convinced the board he was remorseful and had outside job prospects, he might be released in under 2 years served. Jonas's stomach twisted. Would Moses re-emerge to cause trouble? Blair, cradling baby Ethan, paled at the news. He's so vindictive. What if he tries something again? Jonas kissed her forehead gently. He's on parole, if it even passes, meaning he'd be heavily monitored. Still, we'll inform the police about our concerns. Ms. Harding also prepared a statement urging the parole board to consider Moses's violent attempt. Jonas refused to let fear overshadow this joyous new chapter, but the dark possibility lingered. What if Moses got out and sought revenge? As baby Ethan grew, Amos and Alana requested to visit. Curious about the grandchild they never got from Kailani, but indirectly from Jonas's new life. Blair was cautious, but eventually agreed, wanting no hostility. Jonas was neutral, letting them meet the baby under polite boundaries. The visit was brief at Jonas's condo. Alana cooed over Ethan, tears glistening. Amos admired how Jonas balanced fatherhood and restaurant expansions. They brought an expensive baby gift, though Jonas insisted it wasn't necessary. This time, there was no tension or illusions. They parted amicably, acknowledging that though they were not blood relatives to Ethan, they respected Jonas's new family. A month later, the parole board ruled against Moses, citing insufficient demonstration of remorse. He'd remain in prison. Jonas exhaled relief upon hearing it. Blair, too, felt a weight lifted. No immediate threat from that man. Word spread that Moses's good behavior was inconsistent with certain contraband found in his cell. The fiasco of an early release attempt ended abruptly. Jonas brushed it aside, focusing on fatherhood, leaving Moses to fade in the background where he belonged. With fatherhood stabilizing, Jonas plunged into an ambitious plan to open a third Lotus Flame branch in Houston. This time, Blair was an official partner, supplying exclusive organic produce. The synergy was real, built on mutual respect, not forced contracts. Investors lined up, intrigued by Jonas's star power and Blair's sustainable brand. They held a family-friendly angle, marketing the new branch as a culinary haven for foodies who care about authenticity. During a press event announcing the Houston project, reporters asked Jonas about his personal life. Chef Jonas, father, and entrepreneur, how do you balance it all? He smiled, crediting Blair's unwavering support. The crowd cheered. The moment contrasted starkly with the old Synergy fiasco, which was all smoke and mirrors. Now Jonas's expansions thrived on genuine partnerships. Friends, staff, and selected family gathered at the second Lotus Flame location to celebrate Jonas and Blair's engagement. Baby Ethan, now around 6 months old, was passed around, cooed over. Ella gave a heartfelt toast about Jonas's transformation from a stressed, betrayed man to a beaming father and fiancé. Ms. Harding also appeared, offering a congratulatory nod, pleased that her legal work helped Jonas find happiness. Amid the festivities, Jonas found a quiet corner with Blair. They smiled at the sight of Ethan gurgling on a staff member's lap. Blair murmured, "Remember how you once dreaded fatherhood was impossible?" Jonas kissed her temple. "Yes, and now it's my greatest joy next to you." They shared a tender kiss. Applause erupted around them, well-wishers teasing, "Kissing the bride, Tobe, is always allowed." Jonas grinned widely, no longer haunted by Kailani or Moses's manipulations. As the engagement party ended, Jonas walked through the dining room, baby Ethan nestled in his arms, Blair at his side. He reflected on how drastically life changed from the day he discovered Kailani's betrayal. Now he had a thriving business, a loving partner, a beautiful child. No synergy fiasco, no destructive prenup. The path forward seemed luminous, though the final chapters would confirm whether any last ghosts of the past might resurface or if Jonas's new horizon remained clear. Chapter 12. Kailani's last desperate move. Another year passed. Baby Ethan, now a toddler, roamed Jonas's condo, babbling and giggling. Blair and Jonas thrived as co-parents, planning an intimate wedding soon. The first 2 Lotus Flame restaurants hummed with success, while the Houston branch neared completion. Jonas's life was brimming with contentment. The only faint shadow was occasional nightmares of the old days, but each morning he woke beside Blair, the nightmares vanished. Kailani, meanwhile, had quietly rebuilt a modest life. She worked at a smaller jewelry chain, renting a 1-bedroom near her workplace. Freed from Moses's toxic influence, she found a semblance of humility, though bitterness occasionally flared when she heard news of Jonas's happiness. Some nights, she typed out furious rants in her journal, blaming fate, but ended each one acknowledging she'd sown her own downfall. Suddenly, rumors circulated that a tabloid journalist was writing a tell-all book about the synergy fiasco and the assault fiasco. The author, known for sensationalizing, claimed to have inside scoops on the chef's betrayals, the wife's affair, the fiancé's assault. Jonas, hearing from Ms. Harding, groaned. "Just when we found peace. Some hack wants to resurrect old drama." Ms. Harding assured him they had NDAs signed with the in-laws, limiting how much detail could be revealed. Still, rumor could swirl. Blair, concerned, asked Jonas if they should publicly disclaim the book. Jonas decided to wait, seeing if the tell-all was more rumor than fact. He was done letting fear shape his decisions. If it emerges, we'll handle it. In the meantime, wedding plans continued, and baby Ethan's first steps captured Jonas's heart more than any tabloid gossip. Over in her modest apartment, Kailani read about the rumored book with dread. She worried it might depict her as a vengeful spouse who nearly orchestrated murder. She also felt a twisted curiosity. How does Jonas truly see me now? She toyed with the idea of meeting him again, or possibly meeting baby Ethan from afar. Though she knew it was ridiculous. Her father refused to facilitate any contact, scolding her to let Jonas be. But she couldn't quell her restlessness. One weekend, Blair was strolling through a local farmer's market. Alone, Jonas was at Lotus Flame's second location, managing a busy Saturday. She pushed baby Ethan in a stroller, picking fresh produce. Suddenly, she spotted a familiar figure, Kailani. The 2 women locked eyes, the crowd bustling around them. Tension crackled. Blair's heart pounded, recalling how Kailani once threatened Jonas's family. Yet Kailani appeared timid, not aggressive. Kailani approached cautiously, voice shaky. "Blair, hi. I know this is unexpected, but seeing your child, that's Jonas's baby, right?" Blair stiffened, pulling Ethan's stroller closer. "Yes, it is. We're engaged." Kailani exhaled, tears forming. "He's beautiful. I wanted to say I'm sorry for everything that happened to you, the car crash. I never meant Moses twisted my words." Blair frowned. "I appreciate the apology, but you both nearly cost me my life. I can't forget that." Kaylani nodded, tears dropping. "Understood. I don't expect forgiveness. Just I'm glad Jonas found happiness. He deserved fatherhood." She turned away, vanishing into the crowd. Blair stood shaking, a swirl of pity and anger in her chest. She told Jonas about it that evening, leaving him unsettled. He hoped Kaylani wouldn't stir trouble again. Despite the chance encounter, Jonas and Blair pressed forward with wedding plans. They opted for a simple ceremony at a scenic riverside venue, attended by close friends, staff, and a few family members. Ella volunteered to coordinate the reception menu. Ms. Harding was invited too, a testament to how pivotal she was in Jonas's journey. The date was set for late spring. One afternoon, Jonas tried on a tailored tux. Blair, measuring the fit, teased him. "Chef Jonas in formal wear is a sight. You sure you won't slip away to grill shrimp mid-ceremony?" He chuckled, hugging her from behind. "No shrimp today, only you." Their banter carried a sweet intimacy, overshadowing all old scars. At last, the wedding day arrived. Under a brilliant spring sky, guests gathered by the Mississippi River's bank. White folding chairs, simple floral arches, the hum of a gentle breeze. Blair wore a flowing gown that showed just a hint of her postpartum figure. Jonas in his tux, hair neatly combed, face lit with joy. Baby Ethan, dressed in a tiny suit, was carried by Ella as the ring bearer, eliciting coos from everyone. The ceremony was short, heartfelt. Blair recited vows referencing how Jonas's resilience inspired her, how they found love amid chaos. Jonas vowed devotion and gratitude for the new life she brought him. Their kiss sealed not just a marriage, but a triumphant new chapter. Applause erupted, cameras flashed. Ms. Harding dabbed tears. Ella clapped wildly, and the staff beamed with pride. For Jonas, it was a surreal moment. Once trapped in a fraudulent union, now freely exchanging vows of genuine love. During the reception, a subtle commotion rippled through the guests. Jonas, mid-conversation with Blair, noticed heads turning. At the edge of the venue stood Kaylani, dressed in subdued pastel, holding a small envelope. Jonas tensed. Blair's eyes widened. Ms. Harding and Ella approached, ready to intervene. Kaylani raised a hand in a gesture of peace, tears streaking her cheeks. "I'm not here to cause trouble. Please, just a moment. I learned about your wedding date. I wanted to give you this gift for your baby or your new life. Then I'll go." Jonas exchanged a glance with Blair, who nodded slightly. He walked forward, heart pounding, telling Ms. Harding it was okay. Kaylani offered him a small, decorative box. "It's a family heirloom from my mother's side, a silver spoon. I know it won't erase the past, but maybe your son can have it. Something positive from a cursed lineage." Jonas stared at the box, uncertain. Kaylani's tears glimmered. "I truly am sorry. I promise I won't linger." Blair stepped up softly. "Kaylani, we accept your apology, but please respect we have a new life. This day is ours." Kaylani nodded, swallowing her sobs. She placed the box on a nearby table, gave a final trembling smile, then turned and walked away, disappearing among the trees. Jonas exhaled heavily, relief that no scene unfolded. Ms. Harding, Ella, and others returned to the festivities, somewhat moved by Kaylani's gesture. Jonas felt a swirl of closure. The woman who once tried to destroy him was now just a sad figure in the distance. After that brief drama, Jonas led Blair back to the reception. The band played light jazz, guests sipped champagne, and Ethan cooed in someone's arms. Jonas drew Blair close, whispering, "We overcame so much. Moses is behind bars. Kaylani's out of our life. Now, we're truly free. Blair's eyes shone. Yes, and every day we build something real. They danced gently, ignoring the curious stares. In that dance, Jonas felt the final shackles of the past fall away. In the weeks after the wedding, Jonas soared with fresh inspiration, creating a line of family-friendly recipes in Lotus Flame's new menu, referencing fatherhood themes. Blair's produce brand extended into a children's nutrition project. Baby Ethan babbled along, loved by staff as an honorary little chef. Jonas's third restaurant in Houston thrived, launching with rave reviews. The synergy was purely organic, the synergy of true partnership, not a forced contract. Rumors occasionally flared that Moses was trying for parole again, or that Kailani might attempt to reclaim her name in the jewelry world. Jonas paid them no mind, living with quiet confidence that any further conflicts could be handled. Ms. Harding assured him the divorce settlement prevented Kailani from ever making claims on him or his brand again. One evening, on the condo balcony, Jonas held baby Ethan while Blair leaned against him, both watching the city lights shimmer. Ethan cooed, reaching a tiny hand to Jonas's face. Jonas kissed his son's palm, overwhelmed by love. Once upon a time, he was trapped in a vicious cycle of betrayal. Now he was a husband, again, by choice, a father by grace, and a chef unstoppable in his career. The hush of the night felt triumphant, brimming with possibilities. Chapter 13. Full Circle. A Legacy Secured. Another year passed, 2 full years since Jonas divorced Kailani, nearly 3 since he first discovered her affair. He was now 40, an established culinary maestro with multiple thriving Lotus Flame locations. Blair, equally successful, expanded her organic lines to neighboring states, forging a brand recognized for quality. Baby Ethan, now a toddler exploring words and stomping around, brightened every corner of Jonas's once quiet condo. They'd moved to a larger home with a backyard, giving Ethan space to run. Jonas reveled in fatherhood, reading bedtime stories, cooking special toddler-friendly meals, delighting in Ethan's squeals of "Papa, tasty." Life was sweet, with no looming storms. He and Blair even discussed potentially having a second child eventually. News arrived from Ms. Harding. Moses attempted parole again, but was denied. He had no solid demonstration of rehabilitation, and the assault remains a serious felony. The rumor was that Moses had grown bitter behind bars, occasionally stirring trouble with inmates, which only hurt his chances. Jonas felt only a distant flicker of relief. That man's fate was sealed. He'd remain behind bars, a fitting end for someone who tried lethal intimidation. Blair shrugged off the mention, devoting her energy to family life. Amos occasionally updated Jonas that Kailani was slowly stabilizing, still working as a mid-level manager in a different jewelry branch. She avoided the city's social scene. The grudges had mostly fizzled, overshadowed by time. Jonas bore her no malice, content never seeing her again. Then, unexpectedly, an envelope arrived one morning at Jonas's new home address, forwarded by Amos. Inside was a formal wedding invitation. Kailani to marry an older European business mogul. Jonas read it, feeling no jealousy or regret, only mild curiosity. Blair shrugged. If she found a path forward, good for her. We've moved on. Jonas tossed the invitation. Indeed, they had fully moved on. One sunny weekend, Jonas and Blair hosted a staff and family picnic at a local park, celebrating the success of the third Lotus Flame location. Ella brought her fiancé, other employees brought partners and kids. Ethan toddled around, giggling with other children. Jonas cooked a massive barbecue spread, showing off a more casual cooking style. Blair contributed organic salads. The camaraderie underscored Jonas's transformation from battered husband to beloved father figure in the staff's eyes. After the feast, Jonas delivered a short speech. "We overcame storms, personally and professionally. Our bond here is more than a workplace, it's a family. Thank you all for standing by me." Applause thundered. Blair kissed Jonas's cheek. Ethan squealed, wrapping arms around Jonas's leg. Jonas knelt, ruffling his son's hair, eyes shining with paternal pride. The circle of acceptance was complete. A small hiccup arose when a lesser-known relative of Moses petitioned the courts, claiming partial ownership in a defunct Synergy contract. Jonas's lawyer explained it was nonsense, a last-ditch attempt at extracting money. The court dismissed the claim swiftly, citing the final divorce settlement and Synergy fiasco had been resolved. Jonas barely paid attention, confident Ms. Harding would handle any trivial challenge. He was unstoppable now. Quietly, Blair noticed familiar symptoms: morning nausea, heightened senses. With Ethan now too, she felt a flutter of possibility. Jonas, returning from a morning produce run, found her anxiously holding a pregnancy test. A tearful smile answered his unspoken question. They embraced, hearts thudding with excitement. "Another baby," Jonas whispered, eyes moist. "We're building quite the family." Blair giggled. "Yes, Chef Jonas. Maybe we'll have a little sous chef squad soon." They kept the news private until a doctor's confirmation. The doctor gave a cautious thumbs up, though referencing Blair's prior complications, urging careful monitoring. Jonas, recalling the near tragedy with Moses' sabotage, felt a protective shudder. But times had changed. Moses was locked up, Kaylani subdued. He exhaled, relaxing. "We're safe now." Hearing rumors of Blair's second pregnancy, Amos and Alana discreetly sent a congratulatory note, plus a small college savings bond. Jonas accepted it with polite gratitude, no longer bristling at their involvement. They seemed genuinely supportive from a distance. Blair found it sweet that even the once imposing in-laws recognized Jonas's new life. Jonas mused that if Alana hadn't insisted on that no-child clause, maybe the entire fiasco would never have escalated. But regrets aside, he preferred the present outcome. He and Blair built everything organically. One mild autumn evening, after tucking Ethan into bed, Jonas and Blair relaxed on their porch swing, the city lights glimmering beyond the yard. Jonas sipped herbal tea, reflecting softly. "I spent years as Kaylani's puppet, letting her define my worth, then discovered her betrayal. I almost lost myself to bitterness. But ironically, that betrayal led me to you, to fatherhood, to a better life." Blair listened with empathy, hand resting on her slightly protruding belly. Sometimes heartbreak cracks open the path to true fulfillment. Hard to see it then, but now it's clear. Jonas nodded, gazing at the calm night. "I have no regrets. Even the revenge route I took was necessary. I refused to be naive. I got Moses indicted, preserved my brand, and walked away free." They lingered in comfortable silence, cherishing the memory that Jonas overcame the illusions. Now the illusions were replaced by authenticity. He was the unstoppable chef, father, husband, a man who refused to bow to betrayal. That sense of closure soothed him more than any legal triumph. Jonas's success drew invitations from national culinary competitions. One major network approached him for a TV special, Chef Jonas's Road to Redemption, highlighting how he overcame personal adversity to build a restaurant empire. At first, Jonas disliked the sensational angle, but Blair urged him to consider it, as it might boost brand recognition. Ms. Harding also saw no legal downside, since Jonas had no NDAs restricting him from discussing his own journey, only from disparaging Kaylani specifically. So Jonas tentatively agreed, filming segments showcasing his cooking artistry, philanthropic efforts, and new fatherhood with Blair. The final product was a tasteful documentary, skipping the sordid details of Kaylani's affair, focusing on Jonas's resilience. When it aired, audience response soared. Lotus Flame experienced another surge in popularity, and Jonas was revered as a chef with an inspiring backstory. Blair teased him, "Now you're officially a celebrity dad chef." On the show's final segment, cameras captured Jonas, Blair, and little Ethan in the restaurant's garden, picking herbs with laughter. Jonas offered concluding remarks about perseverance, honesty, and forging genuine partnerships. In real life, away from the cameras, Jonas felt a peaceful confidence. He had faced betrayal, fought back decisively, found true love, and was about to welcome a second child. The dawn felt bright, unshadowed by illusions or fear. He locked arms with Blair, who rested her head on his shoulder. They strolled back inside, Ethan toddling behind. The city's bustle and the swirl of older memories felt distant. The final chapter of Jonas's epic journey would confirm if his newfound legacy stood strong or if any last twist lingered in the shadows. Chapter 14. A Legacy of Hope and Completion. 2 more years raced by. Jonas turned 42, father to 2 children now, Ethan, a rambunctious toddler, and Amelia, a baby girl born from Blair's second pregnancy. The condo was replaced by a spacious home near the outskirts with a large kitchen and a garden for Blair's organic experiments. Jonas ran 3 successful Lotus Flame locations, eyeing a possible 4th on the West Coast. He'd become a culinary household name, though he strove to maintain authenticity, avoiding the pitfalls of greed. Blair thrived as a mother and entrepreneur, her brand now spanning multiple states. She divided time between the farmland, the kids, and Jonas, but they found a sweet equilibrium. Their love story was no secret. The media occasionally wrote, "Chef Jonas and the Organic Queen," praising their synergy. Jonas wore fatherhood proudly, teaching Ethan and baby Amelia small kitchen tasks, dreaming of one day passing the apron to them. Occasional updates filtered from Kaylani's sphere. After her brief engagement to the European mogul, it ended abruptly. She then quietly retreated from high society, focusing on menial but honest work in the jewelry field. Some said she found modest contentment, humbler than before. Jonas heard from Alana that Kaylani rarely went out, once acknowledging she had no illusions left about controlling men or reaping easy fortunes. Jonas felt neither triumph nor pity, just acceptance that she had her own path now. Moses served nearly 4 years. Attempting parole yet again, he was eventually released under strict conditions. With no resources or powerful backers, he drifted, carrying the stigma of a felony conviction. Some rumored he tried to rebuild finances with dubious schemes, but few trusted him. Jonas, upon hearing the news, felt no fear or interest. "He can't harm us," Jonas told Blair. "We're beyond his reach." Blair nodded, trusting Jonas's confidence. Jonas and Blair married 2 years ago at the Riverside ceremony. Now they planned an anniversary celebration, a small vow renewal among close friends, plus a family-friendly feast. The second Lotus Flame location's rooftop offered a perfect setting with twinkling lights under the stars. They invited staff, old friends, even Ms. Harding, who had become a family friend. Jonah and Blair repeated simpler vows, reaffirming their bond now that they had 2 children. Ella played guitar, baby Amelia cooed in Blair's arms, and Ethan tried to help Jonas with serving miniature desserts, drawing laughter from the guests. Mid-ceremony, Jonas's eyes misted, recalling how drastically his life had changed since the day he discovered Kaylani's affair. The contrast was stark, a man once on the brink of ruin, now surrounded by genuine love and unstoppable professional success. He overcame every betrayal. At the vow renewal's end, Jonas hoisted Ethan onto his lap while Blair cradled Amelia, Staff members teased, "Chef Jonas, your kids might be future chefs or future farmers." Jonas laughed, imagining a lineage of Lotus Flame restaurants continuing under the Thompson name. The thought of a paternal legacy warmed him something he once believed impossible under Kailani's no-child clause. Now it was a cherished reality. One mild morning, while Blair prepared an early lunch, Amos and Alana made a surprise visit, asking if Jonas could spare a moment. They arrived bearing gifts for the kids, small golden bracelets for Amelia and Ethan, discreetly inscribed with "From Grandfriends." Jonas appreciated the gesture, though it was purely symbolic since they weren't related by blood or marriage. But he welcomed them inside, letting them meet the children. Amos eventually pulled Jonas aside. "I wanted you to know Kailani seems stable, working out of state. She's resigned to her life choices. We're sorry for all the past bitterness. We see how happy you are now." Jonas nodded calmly. "Thank you, I hold no grudge. Let's keep life peaceful." With that, any lingering tension between Jonas and the older generation melted into a cordial acceptance. They parted amicably, Alana hugging Blair softly. It was a far cry from the controlling dynamic of old. Jonas realized he had navigated the labyrinth with cunning and emerged unscarred. Out of the blue, Jonas received a formal letter from the state's governor's office announcing he'd been selected for a special culinary innovator honor, recognizing not just his restaurant expansions, but his advocacy for sustainable farming partnerships, thanks to Blair's input. The ceremony would be held at the state capitol, a major accolade for a chef who once feared being overshadowed by in-laws. Blair grinned, reading the letter over Jonas's shoulder. "Look at you, Chef Jonas, unstoppable." Jonas kissed her cheek. "Couldn't do it without you." They planned a short acceptance speech, mindful not to overshadow the role Blair's organic brand played. This was the synergy that should be celebrated, an honest synergy. Preparing for the ceremony, Jonas rummaged through old boxes to find certain documents or pictures. Among them was a wedding album from his union with Kailani, something he'd shoved aside. Curiosity tugged him, so he flipped a few pages. He saw younger versions of himself, starry-eyed, Kailani radiant but with an undercurrent of haughtiness in her expression. "How naive I was," Jonas mused, placing the album aside with a wistful sigh. He no longer felt anger or heartbreak, only the mild sadness of a dream gone sour. He told Blair about it that evening. She listened quietly, then took his hand. "We all have pasts, but your future is with me and our kids now." Jonas nodded, grateful that Blair never let jealousy overshadow their present. The ghost of Kailani was just that, a ghost, overshadowed by the tangible love in Jonas's life. The day arrived for Jonas to accept the culinary innovator honor at the state capitol. The building's grand rotunda housed dignitaries, media, and select invitees. Jonas, wearing a formal black suit, stood at the podium, Blair and the kids behind him, Ms. Harding, Ella, and other staff in the audience. The governor praised Jonas's resilience, creativity, and partnership with sustainable farming, highlighting how he championed new ways to integrate local produce into high cuisine. Jonas stepped up to the mic, heart pounding with a mix of gratitude and reflection. He delivered a short speech. "I dedicate this honor to everyone who supported me, my staff, my partner Blair, who taught me synergy can be genuine, not forced. My path wasn't easy, but every obstacle fueled my determination. May we keep cooking with integrity and living with honesty." Applause thundered. Blair, tears in her eyes, clapped proudly. Ethan squealed, "Daddy!" from the side, drawing affectionate laughter. The camera flashes captured Jonas holding the plaque, Blair at his side, Ethan tugging at Jonas's pant leg. This image symbolized everything Jonas had reclaimed from the jaws of betrayal, a shining testament to his unstoppable spirit. That evening, back home, Jonas set the plaque next to family photos on the mantel. He gazed at a snapshot of him, Blair, Ethan, and baby Amelia, all smiling in front of Lotus Flame's sign. The earlier chapters of deceit, heartbreak, and cunning revenge now felt like a distant prologue to this contented life. He knelt, lifting Ethan, who babbled excitedly about a new toy pot. Blair approached with Amelia in her arms, a quiet grin lighting her face. Jonas kissed her softly, murmuring, "We made it, didn't we?" She nodded. "We did, and there's so much more to come." The overhead light cast a gentle glow, illuminating a family bound not by illusions or forced contracts, but by love and shared resilience. Jonas took one last look at the city skyline from the living room window. He was free, triumphant, a father, and a loving husband, forging a legacy of truth and success. The betrayal that once tormented him was now but a stepping stone to a greater destiny. Hey, listeners of Temptress Cheating Tales!